the statistics for sort of race hate and extreme right wing discourses, I believe they call it, on those platforms has sort of gone exponentially nuts. So I mean, he is very, very bad news, and it did make me feel, we in this country, good grief, our Prime Minister has had some free glasses from a rich donor. I think it's about time we put him in the stocks. And I'm not decrying that. I'm all for total transparency and people not being in hock to rich donors. But yes, in terms of being in hock to a man who runs a platform which has supported you and is giving £1 million to anyone who votes for you in a lottery and gave you unbelievable amounts of money, and will pick up incredible amounts of money from government contracts afterwards. I mean, we're nowhere near this. So obviously, I don't know if the electors imagine they will elect a president who then gives most of the major jobs to people who are not only not elected, but...
Hello. Am I back? Sorry if you can hear the wind. Still too loud. That's better. Back to Ian.
Don't like government.
Yeah,
interesting. It's a very strange
well
thing
turned
to get
upside
your head
down.
round.
Yeah. I guess you've got vaccine skeptic Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the Department of Health. You've got Gates as, all of these are obviously pending confirmation, but Gates as Attorney General, who said he wants to abolish the FBI.
Yeah.
It's sort of, these people's stated aims quite often are almost the antithesis of the thing they're meant to be doing.
Yes, and they don't approve of it. If you don't approve of public health, fair enough, then probably don't be in charge of it. You don't approve of any sort of government interference in life, you're in charge of government. It's impossible to run a country this way, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm told that none of these people are capable of not falling out with each other within the next 6 months. So that's a sort of a straw to clutch at in terms of optimism.
I suppose, yeah.
But essentially it is all that Republican rhetoric about how, Taylor Swift, how dare anyone care what she thinks. Springsteen, shut up, you old celebrity bores. But they're only one type of celebrity bores. If you're a very rich business celebrity bore, then Trump likes you.
Hi, Dexter.
And your opinion is fine, or you're a wrestler or a golfer or any of the sports you like. It seems to be in America, which we have a lot less here, is politics is dominated by fantastically rich people.
Yes.
And people who are incredibly poor don't seem to mind that.
Yeah, it's also interesting. I hadn't thought about it, but on the one hand, those celebrities, they're sort of called liberal elites or whatever. But then you think, okay, so what is the tangible difference between Beyonce and Kid Rock, or Hulk Hogan or Bryson DeChambeau or whoever it is that Trump attached himself to, and the other people that the Democratic Party have as outriders? Is it just their politics? Because previously I would have said, yeah, they're always business people on the Republican right, but actually, now I think about it, there's more to it than that. It's an interesting.
No, I mean,
way.
I think the lines are blurred.
Yeah.
And celebrity businessmen, the tech bros, quite like being famous. Yeah. That's another of the things that in their geeky past they probably didn't imagine.
Yes.
They now can. I mean, watching Musk appear on a platform, it's very, very strange.
I like the way he
jumps up and down.
I love the way he.
Headphones. Microphone. I've got the volume down on the headphones. So I should be coming through clearer on my microphone. I got these down to around 2:15, I think. Should most rivers will come through this?
Yeah.
He jumped, and he's very, very overexcited to be there. And it's like showbiz.
Yeah. Just like show. Yeah, so I guess the American way, I guess. I think you're almost afforded a degree of detachment, like, oh, well, that's the Americans, I guess. And then Musk starts tweeting about politics here in the UK, propagating at times completely false information, at times slightly misreported information. It's not just to do with, for example, the Southport riots, but all sorts of various cases. He kind of does dip his fingers into our politics over here.
Well, he was actually outraged that Alison Pearson had been visited about a tweet that she subsequently deleted. But he didn't seem to have any problem about all the total misinformation during the riots that went out on his platform.
No.
I mean, really, really dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to mind at all. I mean, it's still out there. I mean, they're still going on.
Yeah, and I would say as well on the Alison Pearson thing, I think Essex Police have a slightly different version of events to the one that she has sort of written about in the Telegraph and mentioned elsewhere.
Yeah, well, luckily it's all recorded on a body cam. And the original tweet, when the police went around, she said, I couldn't remember what it was. Luckily other people can, and have now told us. And it is quite strange watching the entire British media furious in their defence of a tweet by a journalist that managed to get a photo up and got the location of the photo wrong, the nationality of the people protesting wrong, the flag wrong, and the police force wrong.
We have to defend the free press.
It's a strange hill to die on.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
For that level.
No, the freedom of press must be defended at all costs, Ian. The freedom to get every single piece of information.
And
something out there wrong is an important one.
That was the point A that I made. Point B, I noticed that part of her tweet was criticism of the police. And it's amazingly how efficient the police can be when the criticism is of them. And
it's quite brazen as well to sort of have a version of events. It could just... We do have a video of it, Alison. We can just publish this if you want us to.
Yeah, well, she said afterwards, she was very shook up and disturbed, and she's been a journalist for 40 years. Anyway, I don't want to be unsympathetic.
No, absolutely not.
Really.
Actually, I'm quite enjoying this. Yeah,
and I do genuinely feel that the police must have better things to do. I mean, the law on this is very badly drafted. But again, as someone had to point out to Kemi Badenoch when she said, this is an outrage, this was one of yours. This went through under the Tories, this stuff. And if you don't like it, well, let's join in and say we don't like it. I mean, I still don't quite get, this wasn't what happened in this case, but the idea that there is a non-crime hate incident. If it's not a crime, I don't want the police doing it. I agree. Yeah. I thought that's what they were there for.
Well, me too.
We're in slightly Orwellian territory, aren't we?
We absolutely are. And especially, I saw a story as well last week that it was some kids, like literal 9-year-old children in school who are having these sort of things recorded against them, which is very, very worrying and chilling.
It doesn't seem to be a matter for the police until it becomes a matter of a crime, and then it is.
I agree.
The one thing I did remember is that about a year ago, nearly everybody was saying, why can't action be taken against people online? They're saying the most appalling things. Why can't the police go around? And then a year later, the police go around. Everyone goes, why don't the police go around?
This is disgusting.
It is absolutely appalling. Our long-term memory is very good.
Yeah, it's getting a bit goldfishy, yeah, for sure. Let's talk about covers of the magazine. We're running out of time, Ian. It's the annual's here.
I started late, so take what you want.
Well, you'll be here until 6 p.m. There are some good ones this year, but the standout one is you almost certainly know which one I'm going to talk to you about.
It's the Princess of Wales.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Warning: the front page reads: "This magazine may contain some criticism of the Israeli government and may suggest that killing everyone in Gaza as revenge for Hamas atrocities may not be a good long-term solution to the problems of the region." So I imagine the private eye mailbag was quite empty after you put that on the cover.
Yes, it did. It did provoke a very, very large reaction, and a huge. It did provoke a very large reaction, and a lot of people, lotteries, were very upset and offended, and said it was straightforward anti-Semitism.
It wasn't.
And it was unacceptably offensive. I think it's about a year since we ran that cover. I look at it and I think, which bit of it then is wrong? It is an exaggeration, which comedy and satire do. And
You're going to spell it out?
yeah, no, I'm just going with it. And the sheer levels of fatalities and destruction and emptying of a formerly populated areas seems to me to justify that sort of comment. Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult year for commenting on some public events, but necessary, I think.
I agree. I think as well, there can be a temptation or a fear almost to shy away from saying the right thing, because in anticipating the audience response, the response from people who are outside of your audience, the commentariat, whatever you want to call it, media, politicians, that blowing smoke up you a little bit here, but actually it's a brave thing to actually go, you know what, the intention behind this is the right one. So if other people willfully misinterpret it, that's on them.
Yeah, and I thought that was okay. I mean, and if you read the magazine over the year, when protesters turned up on one of those marches wearing paragliding badges, we ran a helpful guide to the police saying these aren't necessarily indications that they're members of their local parachuting club. This may be an indication of support for a prescribed terrorist organisation. So maybe you should go and have a bit of a word with them. It's not as though we've planted. It's not as though we've decided there is no nuance in this argument. There is only one side. We are meant to comment on what happens we are meant to comment on events.
Yeah.
And the lunacies of the last year on these fronts is incredible.
Yeah, it is. It is. Any other standout covers from the year? Any you're particularly proud of? The Princess of Wales one.
I did like the cover which said, "For heaven's sake, leave Kate alone," on other pages. 94 pages about Kate, which is more or less.
94-page special. Has this royal photo been doctored?
Yes, that was good. We put in Andrew.
Yes.
In a family photo. He does remain comedy gold, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. We haven't had much discussion of the royals actually over the course of the hour, but he's kind of been jettisoned now, hasn't he? Charles I think he's cut off his money. Harry's kind of still, I think he's basically the only one at this point who's still pursuing news of the world related sort of media in the courts. I think there was a settlement, wasn't there? I think maybe last week. Yeah, for a lot of people. Broadly speaking, relatively quiet for the royals, as far as they're concerned. Anyway, they've had some pretty big ones in recent years, haven't they?
I think for the royal family, I mean, two cancers in a year is pretty big news, and it certainly indicated that there aren't that many of them.
2 cancers in my family. They're not the only ones. They do have to be told. They do have to be told that. Sorry. Excuse me? That was smoky big. That was smoky big. Bacon crusts, by the way. Sorry. They are tasty. Nom nom nom.
Yeah.
So when the star Princess of Wales is out of action, and when the King is pretty much out of action, and Camilla was ill as well, it's you are reliant on people that no one's heard of to open the Scout Hut and turn up to do the fete. So it was necessarily, I think, quite a quiet year for them. And the only big things were, as ever, whatever Meghan did, the press in Britain found unbelievable and shocking. She made
Is that better?
and we ran a piece saying Meghan's jam will be disgusting. Unlike if Kate had made some jam, when it would have been lovely, even though she didn't. So you end up having to invent your own coverage, as indeed the rest of the press do, about what's going on. I mean, Andrew, there is clearly. I was watching Remembrance Day at the Cenotaph, partly out because I always do, genuinely, and partly just to see all the British Prime Ministers of the last 10 minutes.
Extraordinary to look at the line. I'm embarrassed looking at it. Me and my wife had the exact same reaction when you see them there. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah, you think, gosh, you were Prime Minister, and you.
There's a matter of days between the three of you.
Yeah, extraordinary. But no Harry, no Andrew, no even the waters are literally closed around them. And that was also the day, I suppose, I looked at Charles and I thought, okay, as head of state, we may have some issues with you. God, but you're not Trump. It's a low bar.
Yeah, it is. Maybe that's our key learning from this year is that the bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
It's the takeaway. My final question for you then, Ian, is what have you learned from this year? What
have you learned ever?
What do you know, Ian Hislop?
Oh, very, very little. Yes, what I've learned is that I know nothing. Who was that? Not Trump. One of those Greeks.
Does that sound better? Does that sound better? That sound a bit sore. I need to enunciate. Right. Okay. Donald Trump is a bobber. Keir Starmer can fuck off. That's actually sounding a lot better. Okay.
I've learned that a change of government doesn't necessarily change everything, but I think I slightly knew that. And I would say this year has been quite positive in that journalism occasionally works, and that's good. I'm not going to big it up beyond that, but it does feel better that all that plugging away that people do on all these stories, right from, and some of the big stories this year started on trade mags, some of them we picked up from them, some of them were, really just the campaigning groups themselves made the noise and we joined in. The Irish does the same thing. You tell people what they don't know, and then the week after you make jokes about it. so you get two hits. And I think I've learned that that's sort of okay.
Ian Hislop, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. No, it's disabled. I'm sure I've disabled it. If everyone can get through it, I'll see if I can fix it during the day. I am sounding a bit better.
It's lovely talking to you as always.
Oh, hello.
We were just talking about you kids.
I'm Denise Heberly.
And I'm Bill Goodman.
Together, we've been fighting fascism for over 50 years.
And so much has changed over those 50 years, such as the ingredients to a successful firebomb.
And the glass that bank windows are made of.
But there's one thing that hasn't. Fuck up. Feds, call your mom.
Tell your mother to shut the fuck up.
Now, repeat after me. When the cops come calling, what do you do?
Shut the fuck up! I am Katie Marshall. I am Katie Marshall, and I approve this message.
How is it going, Google debunkers? We are gathered here today to celebrate a momentous occasion. 2 million subscribers. Yet again, I am late by about 200,000 subscribers, but that's okay. Better late than never. Or something. Last year I went all out with my 1 million subscriber video. I did a full recap of the road that it took to get there and gave a tour of my new home. Pretty fun, pretty creative, took a lot of, time, energy, and whatnot. But today I'm giving real YouTuber energy, and we're gonna be doing a Q&A. A few weeks ago I told you to ask me pretty much anything, and 3,500 of you took me very seriously, which left me with the god-awful task of having to actually pick which questions I wanted to answer in a semi-reasonable amount of time, which is what we're gonna be doing now. But I think before we do that, I have something even more important we need to kick things off with. If we're really doing a celebratory video, I think there's no better thing to have than some fucking champagne. It's actually not champagne, it's Prosecco. Wait, really? I swear to God this was champagne. Apparently this is not actually champagne. I was lied to. That's okay. This is gonna be just fine. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for joining.
Prosecco is a lighter taste. It is a lot easier. People still get a headache. That can't be helped. I've been having trouble with my YouTube. I need to go and fix it during the day. Ah, better? Fantastic. Milo Prosecco is lovely. It should be easy to drink. Plus, if it's anything under, I want to say $15, it's probably Prosecco. Your bottles of champagne are probably 30 plus, maybe 40. Our bottles of champagne are about 20, 25, around there. Plus they're probably selling a good few million about this time of year. We don't drink champagne. I like Prosecco. It's quite tasty and cheaper. We usually get a bottle of Prosecco, £6 or £7, up to about a tenner. So I don't know what that. $12, 15. Does it? It gives super happy heartburn as well, and he calls it fizzy vinegar. He's not wrong. That's how it's made.
Me here today. Ooh, we even got a little fancy way of opening this. This is gonna be fun. Ugh. Take his little hat off. Take his little chastity belt off. Howdy, friends. My name is Milo Rossi, and welcome to my 2 million subscriber special. Holy sh! I put a fucking hole in the ceiling. Let's get started. Alright, everyone, let's get this thing rolling. My desk is now covered in, like, asbestos dust. Wow, this is a really awkward angle. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We're going really classy here today, boys. We're gonna be drinking courtesy Camel Joe. Don't smoke, kids. It's bad for you. Yeah. Oh, shit. All right, we're putting that on the floor. An object tending towards the floor should be left on the floor. What the fuck? Wow, I feel scammed. All right, folks, let's...
That's that's the sulfates and the carbon dioxide reacting with the atmosphere, and lots of stuff got released when you open the bottle. The reaction is quite fun. Be careful. I've actually seen people getting hit in the eye. Ouch. Very dangerous. That was champagne, not Prosecco. That was a 65-pound bottle in a club in Perth. It was a wedding. It was a wedding and anniversary. I'll see you again. Ouch.
Get started. Let's put that over there. Jesus. Anyone want this? Goddamn pervert. Our first question comes from Maddie from San Francisco, and Maddie asks, what kind of music do you listen to? Favorite artists / albums? Maddie, I don't listen to music. I'm not a fucking normie. I'm kidding. I actually don't know how to answer this question. I listen to everything except country. I'm not like other girls. Okay, according to my stats.fm, pulling data mining from my fucking Spotify, my top artists are Dire Straits, we got Santana, Greta Van Fleet, Ain't no way dwarves is number 4. Is this right? I don't think this is right. I like dwarves, but I don't like them that much. Although there is something to be said for, like, full frontal nudity in every album cover. I wish I could do that with every thumbnail, but no. Ludo, gotta love Ludo. Los Lonely Boys, Tom Jones, Foxy Shazam, John Prine, Johnny Cash, REO Speedwagon, Coyote Kid, Oingo Boingo, As It Should Be, and Burn the Ballroom. Are you happy now? Ain't no way my most listened to song of all time is Hit That by The Offspring. I don't believe this app. This is all full of lies. Next question. Rowan from Arizona asks, how much did the couch cost? How were you able to sit on it for so long if it smelled like cat piss? Well, Rowan, excellent question. The couch was free. I found it on the side of the road, so thankfully there was no sunk cost when I threw it out the window. But that was actually why I covered it with the cowhide, was because it smelled like cat piss. But the only reason I was probably able to endure the fact that it smelled like cat piss is because I was simultaneously talking about Philip Zeba, and that overwhelmed my senses, and so I was numb to it. Caleb from Idaho asks, have you ever gotten something wrong in a video? I'm not asking to try to be mean, it's just wondering if to your knowledge, anything has slipped through the information cracks. Good question, Caleb. Yes, I have got things wrong in videos before, and I'm sure that I will again. You're sometimes going to get things wrong. That's the nature of doing what I do. But when I get things egregiously wrong, I always try and correct it in later videos. I think that's an important part of academic honesty, because it's, I think, completely unreasonable to expect that people will never get anything wrong. It's more of a matter of how you handle realizing that you were wrong and what you do going forward from that point. So I always try and be very transparent when I do end up making a mistake. The OG Miss G from Texas asks, hey Milo, I'm a school teacher, hence the code name. Would you ever consider making clean versions of your videos at any point? I know this sounds dumb, but I keep thinking some of your videos would be an awesome history/archaeology content for middle/high school age, especially parts of your videos that discuss good research skills. That's a great question, the OG Miss G. Yeah, I actually have thought about that a little bit. My team and I are actually working on doing a website at some point soon, and in there I do want to include clean versions of my videos. I like doing, you know, my pretty crass content in all my videos. I think it adds an extra level of engagement that really clicks with people and makes them stick around longer. But I do think that it makes a great teaching tool, and I've had a lot of other people in the educational space reach out to me via email and stuff saying, if you had, you know, clean versions, I'd love to show this to like my 5th graders, and no qualms with that. You don't need to be swearing to a bunch of 5th graders, so when that happens, you'll know about it. Riven from Central Vermont asks, hey Milo, congrats on 2 million. I've been here through most of it, and it's really cool to see. As a Vermonter, it seems you've moved to the Green Mountain State, so very cool to see. Love seeing people move here. How's it been? I hope the flooding treated you okay this summer. I have absolutely loved every second of it. I said many years ago in a video, actually, I was like, you know, when I eventually put roots down, it's going to be in Vermont.
Just such a beautiful place.
My whole life, something about Vermont has called me. I really do think that when I finally push the button on buying a house somewhere, Vermont's going to be it.
I was right. Here I am now. I've kind of wanted to live here for pretty much my whole life. I feel like this place has always had a little piece of my heart, and so far it has been fucking immaculate. I will say the flooding was no joke. Thankfully, my house is a little bit elevated, so I didn't personally experience much of the flooding, other than going down into the basement during one of the really heavy rains, and there was just like a river coming down the side of my foundation. That kind of sucked. But a lot of the communities around me in the low-lying areas were hit really hard, which is why I was really inspired to do the fundraiser for the flooding in Asheville from Hurricane Helene, back with the vampires video, because I personally know, as someone on the north end of the Appalachians, how much these communities are hit really hard when they're hit by rain. So even though they may be, 700 miles away from us, they are still our brothers and sisters of the mountains, and I want to do everything I can to support them. HPS from New fucking Jersey asks, will you ever do more travel videos? For example, your travel to Turkey and Dark Roots. Yes, absolutely. There will be plenty more of those. In fact, and not to give any spoilers here or anything, but as you are watching this video, I am currently traveling and filming more videos. So I'm not going to give away what it is. I'm keeping that card close to the chest. Somebody asked a question, I forgot to put it in here, but I'm going to respond to it anyway. So Mystery Person from Mystery Place asked, was there any questions that nobody asked that you wish they did? There was 3,000 questions in this, and many of them came out before the most recent season of Ancient Apocalypse, but I've been seeing a lot of people asking me in my comment sections and in my email inbox of, are you going to review Ancient Apocalypse Season 2? And what kind of question is that? Come on! So the answer I will give is all in good time. All in good time. I got things are coming, but I'm not gonna play my hands too soon. I'm not giving anyone any leg up on me, so a little something to look forward to. Zek from Maryland asks, have you ever thought about writing your own book on any of the topics you talk about? Yes, Zek, I thought about it so hard that I actually already wrote one. My book is right here. The Encyclopedia of the Weird and Wonderful. I wrote it back in 2023. It is out now. You can find it on Barnes & Noble. You can find it on Amazon if you are going to want to give Bezos a little money, but I prefer if you don't. It was pretty fun to write. I tried to make it a book that really humanizes ancient people, and so I made it kind of go through the span of a human lifetime. So it starts with, you know, birth and early childhood, and then it goes to like education. There's a section about food. There's a section about love and marriage, and it finally ends with death and burials. And in each one of those chapters, it looks at different discoveries from different time periods in different parts of the world to illustrate that even though humans are a diverse group, we have all been pretty much the same pretty much forever. So it's a pretty fun book. If you want to check it out, link to it is in the description. Don't support Jeff Bezos, but support me. Good question, Zach. Devin from Ohio asks, how do you feel about the influence of monetary funding in modern academics? Wow. I didn't study for this one, Devin. Big one. Okay, without giving a thesis of an answer, I think that as it stands right now, it's a necessary evil. I think that science is something that is made to drive all of humanity forward, but because we live in a capitalist world, money does have to be tied to that. And in doing that, you have to have some sort of money flowing into research in order for research to be done. So while it is a necessary evil, I do think there are some immense drawbacks of it where, you know, if people are able to put a whole bunch of money into something that they are financially incentivized to care about what the results are going to be, it can end up in a bit of a shady territory. So obviously this varies on a case-to-case basis, but Devin, it's something that ideally would not exist. Ideally, there would be enough money in science that scientists wouldn't have to accept money from outside, potentially biased sources. But that is the reality of the world that we live in, and it's the responsibility of scientists to make sure that those outside biases do not impact their research. Cave from Duluth asks, if I'm curious about doing similar science communication content, is there somewhere you would recommend starting? I'm not interested as much in the short form TikTok route, but it's definitely something I want to try. Well, unfortunately, Cave, the one place you say that you aren't interested in is the one place I would recommend you start. As someone who got their start on TikTok, I can attest that it is a wonderful way to build a pretty big audience pretty quickly. Short form video on TikTok especially can proliferate really far because people don't have to go out of their way to click on it. It's something that just shows up in their feed, and so you almost put yourself right in front of people and they don't really have a chance to, you know, vet you first, which is a great way for people to find your content. So as much as I hate short form video and I really don't use TikTok that much anymore, I recommend starting there because it's a great way to build a community pretty quickly. Ondrej from Slovakia asks, how long does it take to make a video? Varies, obviously, but by and large, I'd say it's normally about a month from scripting to final production. Bertram from Denmark asks, are you happy? I try my best to be, Bertram. I try my best. Ellie from the UK and Wales asks, how'd you get into YouTube and TikTok? Well, I started out on TikTok, Ellie, and I was actually by the recommendation of a friend at the time. And while I am no longer friends with this person, they did give me the single greatest thing I have ever created. So, you know, every rose has its thorn or something. Jason from New York asks, is Rossi an Italian last name? If so, where in Italy is your family from? That's a great question, Jason. Yes, it is an Italian last name. I am 80% Italian, actually, and most of my family is from southern Italy. Most of them are from Naples, I believe. And yeah, I actually have been really interested about doing a video in Italy covering some archaeological sites. As some of you probably know, Otzi is the discovery that got me interested in archaeology back when I was like 5 years old. And so my goal has been to someday film some on-site videos in Italy and eventually make my way up to the Alps and film a video about Otzi on site. I think that would be sick. Rafael from Brazil asks, what are some of your favorite creators? That is an excellent question, Rafael. I actually just gave a slide about that in my presentation at the University of Maine, which I will be posting a highlights reel of at some point, don't worry. But let me give you some other creators I'd recommend. Okay, in the world of archaeology and anthropology, these are some of my favorites. Stefan Milo does a bunch of stuff about early human history. He also kind of shares a name with me, so that's fun. History with Kaylee covers a bunch of like Neolithic sites and some on-site footage as well. Ancient Americas covers the Americas. Archaeology with Flint Dibble is another a valiant Google debunker. North02 does videos about ancient cultures. Gutsick Gibbon is another dedicated Google debunker. Fig Tree does archaeological topic videos that have a similar humor to myself. Ancient Architects also does amazing videos about various archaeological sites. And World of Antiquity does great analyses of various pseudoscience topics and also real in-depth archaeological videos. And as far as things that aren't archaeology goes, some of my favorites are Atlas Pro, Geology Hub, Lindsay Nicole, Townsend's, Professor Dave Explains, Auchinchay Films, Myron Cook, and Epic History. There you go. Have fun with all of those names. There'll be links to all of them in.
We have 4 socialists. We love the Professor Dave. He is amazing. Auchinchay Films, Prisby, Andy. Love him. Epic History is quite good. I don't know who Myron is. I'll go and check him out.
The description, check them out. Rachel from South Carolina asks, I demand a pet introduction and a jewelry tour kindly. I would also ask for a studio tour, but seeing as how it's currently in shambles, I think I'll pass. Congrats on 2 million, you definitely deserve it. Thanks for the vote of confidence there, Rachel. Yeah, the studio is a bit of a shit show right now, but I just got a complete architectural proposal for the renovation of the house. So, house renovation channel coming soon? No, seriously, I've actually been thinking about doing that. I think it would be kind of cool. Start with the studio, make the studio all nice, and then show you guys the rest of the house as it comes together. Historic preservation channel, inspire people to do historic preservation. Wouldn't that be fucking neat? Okay, I'll give a pet tour in a bit, but I'm gonna start with ring tour. All right, here you go, Rachel, this one's for you. I got a lot of rings, as you can see here. Oh yeah, perfect angle for the shadows to be in my face. This one, my dad got for me when I was 16. It is a Dene Navajo Squash Blossom Sandcast ring. It's probably like 17 years old. 17 years old. I mean, I've been wearing it since I was fuck. It's probably like 70 years old, and I have been wearing it since I was 16. This one is one that I found in the garbage in Provincetown, Massachusetts. I picked it up and had no fucking idea what it was, and the person I was with was like, hey, that's a ring, and I put it on and I was like, holy shit, that's a ring. This one I found at a thrift store in Bangor, Maine. This was my mother's wedding ring, actually, just so happens to fit very nicely. This one I got the second time I went down to go visit my girlfriend in Asheville, and this is from Rick Walker's Western Wear in Boston, Massachusetts. It's a Hopi ring. Starting to run out of fingers a little bit. Oh, and then I also have some bracelets. This was my grandfather's from World War II, and this was something that my dad gave me because he had it lying around, and I didn't have anything else for this wrist, and so I've been wearing it for like 3 years. There you go, Rachel. Hope you enjoyed. Epsilon from Germany asks, are you ever going to do another critique of conspiracy theory content creators like the one on Philip Ziba? If yes, how would you feel about it? Probably, but I don't know. It's a lot of work, and it normally doesn't really achieve that much, and it feels like kind of just reaction content, which I'm not a big fan of. So I'd have to pick my target very carefully if I were to do that ever again. Lily from Connecticut asks, do you support me coming out as trans? Lily, to that I say, whatever you are, fucking go for it. I love you, I support you, I'm here for you, and I raise one up for you. Salud. Ginger from Florida asked, do you ever do events where fans can meet or interact with you? I have only done one, that was kind of my recent talk at the University of Maine, but I am planning on, spoilers here, guys, so bear with me. I am planning on doing some live shows, potentially in 2025. I really enjoyed doing the talk at UMaine, so I thought it would be kind of fun to maybe do like a tour and like go to some cities and do like a live show and like, you know, do.
Milo, come over here. If I could huck along, I'd bring him to Glasgow. I could show him the Antonine Wall. think of what else. Can't think. Yeah. Let's see if we can get him over here.
What I fucking normally do, but on a stage, everyone gets some good laughs, you know? Open bar and shit. I don't know. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. But yeah, Ginger, eventually I would like to do something like that. Xander from Tramel asks, what's your favorite video you've made, if you have one, that is? I don't know if I have a specific favorite video, but I think as far as like my most slept on videos, well, let me just, not me going to my own YouTube page because I forget all the shit that I've done. Oh God, my whole feed is just election stuff. I'm filming this on November 7th, guys, so, you know. I'm filming it the day after the International Day of Mourning. Okay, my most slept on videos, I think, in the grand scheme of things, gotta be Dark Roots. That is like the video series that I'm the most proud of. All of my other work pales in comparison to it. I fucking love that series. I think actually before this video comes out, there was probably the most recent episode of Dark Roots, which comes out like 8 months after the last one did. But Dark Roots is my crowning achievement of series. That one is the best. As far as other kind of ones that I feel like are a little bit slept on, my Greenbanks Hollow Ghost Town video, filmed in Vermont, that one I think is heavily slept on. And I think my Shazy Fossil Reef video, also super slept on. The fuck is going on out there? There are cats hissing at each other. And I think my videos at the Penn Museum, what are these mysterious artifacts and what was life like in ancient Mesopotamia? Those two also slept on. Shout out Dr. Brad Hafford from the Penn Museum for walking around and showing us all this cool stuff. Belfry from Scotland asks, how has being a YouTuber affected your mental health? Has it been difficult to manage the stress, and to prevent yourself from getting caught up in the numbers too much? Belfry, that's a great question. It's tough. It's tough. I remember watching a lot of, YouTubers before I even thought this would be a job. I mean, I was born in 1999, so I grew up with YouTube pretty much my whole life, and I remember watching YouTubers growing up, and they were like, oh, it's a hard job, and I was like, bullshit.
He's the same age as my MB. Wow. That is frightening. I am old enough to be his mom.
It's a hard job. You get to do what you love. And now doing this for a living, I agree, yes, I get to do what I love, but I also see what they mean about, like, it's fucking hard. It's really hard, especially when your, the ability for your business to sustain itself is directly correlated to the views of an audience. And, I'm immensely grateful for the audience that I have, and I'm happy to have so many returning viewers. But at the end of the day, my ability to continue doing what I do is directly related to how many views I get. And that's a really challenging thing, because it's hard to be the person you want to be and create the things that you're the most proud of if those things aren't the ones that are going to get the most views, because you're not financially incentivized to make things that aren't going to get views, even if they're the things you're the most proud of. So even though I've talked a lot about the discrepancy between wanting to make more just fact-based archaeological content and kind of wanting to steer away from the more like punchy reaction content, debunking stuff, the debunking stuff is the stuff that gets the most views. I mean, if you look at my channel and you look at let's see. If you go to my popular videos, I mean, I watched Ancient Apocalypse, so you don't have to, with 5.5 million views. Philip Zeba debunked with 4 million views. Now, obviously, I don't want to sound like I'm, wiping my tears away here. Things like Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe still get 1 million views, but compared to the debunking content, that's the stuff that does the best. And then when you look at things like my Dark Roots series, something that I'm immensely proud of, that got orders of magnitude less views than everything else. So it's really challenging to try and find ways to make content that you're proud of and also not like sell out. So yeah, I would say that, I can't synthesize here in a couple minutes exactly how my mental health has been affected by doing this, but it's really fucking challenging, and there's definitely been some times where it's really disheartening to make something that you're super fucking proud of and it just doesn't do well when it's not something that really feeds into the algorithm and is something that the audience clicks with. So it's definitely challenging, but I am grateful to have the audience I do, and I think a sign that we are doing well is that we are here celebrating 2 million. So thank you all very much for this. Claudia from New Zealand asks, as a layperson who can't understand scientific papers and so forth, forth, what's the best way to fact-check a dubious theory encountered in the wild? Claudia, I would say that every layperson is more capable of gleaning good information from bad information than you give yourselves credit for. If you do just a little bit of, research into a topic, you will find things other than scientific papers that will be able to help you understand a topic further. So I would say that literally just
Christ. My laptop is really, really hot.
doing like a surface level research beyond a single source that you're hearing something from is going to be enough to be able to give you the information that will help you decide whether or not what you're hearing is true or false. That's actually an important point there though, Claudia, is anyone who doesn't have a degree or feels like they're unqualified to be interested in something or to research something, you're absolutely qualified. I talked a lot about the importance of a generalist in my video or in my presentation at the University of Maine, and I think that everyone is a generalist in their own right. Whether you have a degree or something or not, everyone has a specific set of interests that they probably have more of an understanding in than the general public. So don't sell yourself short just because you haven't been versed in scientific papers. That doesn't mean that you're unqualified to be able to tell good information from bad information. Demo from Germany asks, how do you deal with fear and uncertainty, like when you have to go to a new state or country for your work? That's a tough one. Probably the worst thing about traveling anywhere is being a tourist. You never want to actually look like a tourist. And even myself as someone who, I carry myself pretty well, when I go to a different country or even a different region of the US, there's absolutely going to be a culture shock. When I went to Turkey, when I went to Peru, those are huge culture shocks. But you also have to keep in mind that this is just the way that life operates there. And I think the best thing that you can do is just try and follow behind what is going on. If you're there with a guide, if you're there with someone who understands, just stay understated. Don't try and, go crazy. Don't try and suddenly grasp the local culture and be one of them, because you're not. You have to have some respect for it. You're kind of a spectator. And as you're there longer, I think you can kind of work yourself into it, be able to understand it a little bit more. But don't be afraid to kind of take a back seat and just observe what's going on around you, because the only way that people are going to realize you are like a tourist derogatory is when you try so hard to fit in that you just completely fuck it up. So take it easy, be kind to yourself. People will cut you some slack because you're a tourist, and don't make a fool of yourself. Pedro from Portugal asks, why do you use the terms BCE and CE instead of BC? I'm not asking for a religious perspective, but rather to understand the scientific or historical reasoning behind the use of these terms. I think that's a good question, Pedro. I think that it really is just that in science, why do we need to be incorporating religious doctrine into it? I think it's just a more inclusive way of talking about our time periods. I also think there's a little bit of an irony in using BC and AD, before Christ, and Anno Domini when referring to the entirety of human existence, when most of those people that you are referring to have absolutely no point of reference and never even knew about the existence of the Christian church. So it's just a little bit weird to refer to all of human history through a Christian lens, and I think that in archaeology and in anthropology and many histories being so Western oriented, it's important to try and find ways to sort of take it down a notch. And I think that BC and BCE is a pretty simple change that can make a little bit of a difference. And most importantly, it weeds out the people who get really pissed off when you use BCE. Seriously, go to the comments right now. There's going to be a couple of them down there. BCE, what is this? Don't you know that this was a Christian nation? No, sorry. I don't. Anat from India asks, hello Milo, just wanted to ask, how are you doing and how is everything going? I hope you are well. Also, could you please tell us about the fireplace that's in the background of your videos? Thanks, Anat. I'm doing good. This fireplace is, it's pretty fucking wild, isn't it? Okay, so brief history lesson. This house was built in 1894, and the guy who owned it was quite well-to-do. Involved in the US government, and he had a bit of a fireplace fetish. This fireplace right here is allegedly from the Boston Public Library, and the fireplace downstairs is, again, this is a big allegedly, from the White House. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, that's where this fireplace is from. So that's why it looks so ridiculous and out of place in this room. Well, you can't actually see the rest of the room. So the rest of this room is just as stately as this fireplace. Trust me. AJC from Scotland asks, how do you feel about people using your videos as evidence to write essays? This is me asking permission to use your Lake of Bones video as a source for an essay I'm writing. AJC, I don't have a problem with that, but I would recommend that if you use any of my videos as like a source to write an essay or something like that, I would recommend using it more as inspiration and going to the sources that I link in the description to use as direct sources. Obviously, everything I say in the videos, I try and make as factually accurate as possible, but I would rather you use the same source information I do so that we aren't playing a game of broken telephone where you're direct quoting me and I said something a little bit different than what's in the paper, and you know, it carries down the line and eventually goes on to spread misinformation. So use my videos as inspiration, use them as armchair expertise, but if you're writing something about it, I would really recommend you delve into the same sources that I did. Marin from Utah asks, will you go on a date with me? No, Marin, I won't. But I respect when a shooter shoots, even if it is through Google Forms, you know? Have you ever picked someone up through Google Forms? No? Fucking get on it. Ben from Canada asks, where do you get all your clothes from? I think your style is very similar to mine, and I'm gonna copy some of your outfits. Ben, you absolutely should, and where you can go to shop for outfits like mine is fucking Goodwill. George from Russia asks, what's the worst alcohol combo you've had? Do I have it up here? Did I bring it up? I brought a prop up here. Okay, I got it. So this isn't an alcohol combo, this is just an alcohol, but this is the fucking worst thing I've ever drank in my entire life. One of my friends just gave it to me at my Halloween party, and it is fucking awful. It is 53% alcohol. So yeah, it may not be an alcohol combo, but no, you know what? This is the worst alcohol combo I've ever had. The combo is this and being alive. It fucking sucks. I'm not even leaving it on the screen. I'm not giving them any more promotion, god damn it. Peter from Poland asks, was there a time in your life when you genuinely enjoyed conspiracy theories / paranormal stuff, ghosts, orbs, cryptids, etc., and when did you stop believing in them? Did you and your friends watch them purposely to get brain damage? Well, I think we need to make a little bit of a distinction here, Peter, is paranormal things are not something I have ever really debunked, because they can't be. People ask me a lot, they're like, sometimes I'll get like these crazy comments from people being like, well, Milo, when you think about it, aliens, like there has to be aliens and the government and the aliens. And I'm like, I'm not arguing about fucking aliens. I'm just saying the aliens didn't build the pyramids. No one is arguing that aliens don't exist. I'm not even gonna argue whether or not aliens have been to Earth. I don't fucking know. It's the same thing with ghosts or cryptids. Like, yeah, probably not. And if you gave me evidence for one of those things, I would weigh that evidence scientifically to see if it supports there being ghosts or Bigfoot or fucking Mothman or something. But most of those things exist in being an unfalsifiable hypothesis, so I'm not even gonna delve into it. Debunking ghosts or Mothman is like trying to debunk God. I'm not gonna do that. If someone could debunk any of those things, they wouldn't exist anymore. That's why the things that I debunk are all conspiracy theories, where they provide information that they think means something, and that I can scientifically analyze to see whether or not it actually holds any water. So, long story short, do I believe in ghosts? I have no fucking idea. When I was a kid, I was pretty sure I saw one, I will say that. You know what, actually, story time with Milo here. You guys got me hanging out with a bottle of Prosecco and my 2 million subscriber video. What else am I gonna do other than give you a little fucking ghost story? It goes a little something like this. When I was like 6 years old, or something, I was staying at an inn in New Hampshire. It was, you know, creepy, shining kind of place. It was the winter, it was snowy, it was cool. I was staying with my parents in a room. Our hotel room had like a main living area, wall between it, doorway, and then a kind of mirrored bedroom on the other side. And in that bedroom, there was 2 beds, one kind of with the foot facing the door and one with the foot kind of facing the wall. My parents were over in this bed and I was over in this bed. Now, in the middle of the night, I woke up because I dropped my stuffed cat onto the floor. And I reached down to pick it up, and as I sat back up, I swear to God, there was a woman standing at the end of my bed. She was wearing like a white robe, and she had really long black hair, and she was holding a black cat, and she was looking at me, and she was petting the cat, and I didn't feel like freaked out by it. I was like confused, but it didn't feel like a threatening thing. And then she just kind of like turned around and like walked through a wall and was gone. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, well, that was fucking weird. And to this day, I have no idea if it was a dream, if I was like, you know, imagined it and like made it up at some point and just like made it part of my brain, but I don't fucking know. I was like 6 years old, so who knows? But either way, I'm not gonna try and debunk the existence of ghosts because how the fuck am I supposed to do that? Chris from England asks, hey Milo, congrats on hitting 2 million and also being this hey Milo, congrats on hitting 2 million and also on being this straight guy's first pick in the classic yeah, but if I were gay game. Thanks, Chris. Do you think that pseudoscience contributes to the increase in far-right and fascist views? Do you think that pseudoscience is a symptom of this increase, or it's some kind of nebulous chicken and egg situation? Love your videos, and keep fighting the good fight, Chris. Thanks, Chris. That's a good question. I'm not gonna go too in-depth into that because I would ramble for the rest of this video, but if you wanna learn a little bit more about my thoughts in pseudoscience and it being a pipeline into some alt-right views, check out my talk that I gave at Virginia Tech. Link to it's in the description. I talk about the pseudoscience pipeline pretty in depth there. Texan DDD from Texas asks, what's with your house, dude? Why are you always freezing and why do you have so much old furniture? Well, Texan DDD, I'm always freezing because this is a fucking barn. There's no insulation in it and it's framed with 2x4s. I don't even know how this building is still standing. Oh, and this fireplace, by the way, there's a workshop below here by the garage. All this brickwork, you know what it's suspended on? Fucking wood sticks. I shit you not. This chimney, this brick chimney doesn't go all the way to the ground. I'm just waiting for this whole side of the building to fall off. But yeah, the house was built in 1894, so it's old as shit, and all the cool old wood furniture is either from the house or because I have good taste. Thanks. Michaela from Australia asks, what's your favorite natural phenomena that shares an oral history or myth with people of that time period used to explain said phenomenon or event? Great question, Michaela. I like that one. I think my favorite one has to come from the indigenous groups of the Pacific Northwest of North America. There's a story that there was a battle between the great eagle spirit and the whale spirit. And in this battle, the eagle picked the whale up from the ocean and dropped it. And when that happened, it made a huge wave that washed to the shore and wiped out all the people along the coast. Now, while that's a fantastical story, there's actually archaeological and geological evidence to back up the fact that there was a tsunami that occurred from the tectonic activity off of the western coast of North America that created a tsunami that wiped out a lot of indigenous communities that were in low-lying areas by what's now Seattle and the Vancouver Islands. So I think that's a pretty interesting example of indigenous mythos that was used to explain an actual geologic and natural event. Mythical Monster Man from America asks, have you thought about doing any more tattoos like the Otzi ones? Yeah, I actually have one of them already. I didn't make a video about it, but I have one of the Scythian warrior tattoos. It's the reindeer on my shoulder. I'm not gonna do it because it is fucking cold in here, but it's cool. You gotta try. I'll throw a picture of it up. Agraj from born in Nepal, lives in Pennsylvania, asks, how many languages do you know? I'm American. What do you think? I barely know one. Scott from Texas, but New Hampshire originally, asks, have you ever thought about investigating or debunking Mormon church claims that Native Americans were actually from Israel and that they had Roman-style civilization with millions of people, and the Book of Mormon is filled with issues like there being steel, horses, chariots, etc. in the Americas? Yes, I have considered it, but it's a bit of a sensitive issue in the United States. Delving into religion is something I try not to do too much, which is a challenge when religion is based on pseudo-archaeology. So yeah, I've thought about doing that. I just haven't figured out how best to approach it because I think it's really important to discuss, but I also don't want it to come across as being an attack against people's faith. I have a few friends that used to be members of the church, and I may work with them to help make this video, but eventually I would like to try and talk about it. I just don't know how best to do it in a way that is sensitive. Mia from England asks, what did you do first after you got your degree? How crass can I be with this? Hammered. Maury from Venezuela asked, what extinct animal would you have as a pet? Fucking,
The first thing I done when I got my degree was get hammered. The next thing I done was upload my dissertation to the cloud. I am currently editing it so I can read it online, on stream. Watch this space. Watch this space. It's kind of involved. And I will be debunking imperialism, colonialism, and capitalism, and how they added to viral and parasite outbreaks in the various countries. 18 countries so far. Holy fuck. I will get there. Don't worry. And please, kids, don't get hammered too much. It does damage everything. Yeah.
Thylacine. Hunter from Colorado asked, do you think some amount of ridicule is necessary in defeating misinformation? To what degree is it appropriate for science communicators to use ridicule in their work? That's a great question, Hunter, and something that I am still grappling with. I love doing what I do. I have a lot of fun doing what I do, but I really don't take a lot of pride in ridicule. I know that seems a little bit rich coming from me when that's like the thing that I do, and I do have fun with it, but in more recent debunks, I try and have it be a lot more based in appealing to the individual, like in the Philip Ziba series, where it's not just based on being like, you're stupid, fuck you, I don't even care what you say. So it is something that's rather challenging to try and figure out how to balance, because and something I feel really proud of, and also make content that gets millions of views and allows me to continue working with a team of like 9 people. So it's definitely challenging, and I try to balance the ethics of it as best I can. Someone from somewhere asks, what's the fireplace say? The fireplace says, old wood to burn, old books to read, old friends to trust. Now you know. Bento from Wisconsin asks, what's your favorite Native American site? Jesus. That's like asking, what's your favorite European site? I would say I like the Blue Hill Bay archaeological site off the coast of Maine. I'm a big fan of medicine wheels and buffalo runs. Guadalupe ruins have a special place in my heart because I visited them on episode 1 of Dark Roots. And mound complexes. Mound complexes are fucking sick. It's a shame we don't have as many of them left as there used to be because all the farmers destroyed them. Max from the UK asks, how did you acquire your 100-year-old house, and what are the pros and cons of living in an old house as opposed to a newer one? I acquired this house completely by luck. I was house hunting, and I found this one, and now I'm here. And the pros of living in an old house is it's really cool, and the cons of living in an old house is everything else. Him from Your Walls asks, how's the Atlantis video doing? I knew this question would come up eventually. I am working on the Atlantis video. Okay, spoilers. I've decided that for the Atlantis video, I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to debunk Atlantis? It is kind of an unfalsifiable hypothesis. So my idea was, I'm going to debunk Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly, which means that I need to read Atlantis, the Antediluvian World by Ignatius Donnelly multiple fucking times. And I've been so preoccupied with other videos that I haven't really developed it that much, but it is coming. It is something that I'm working on. I have not abandoned awful archaeology, but right now my priority is going to be in the next big project is probably going to be Ancient Apocalypse Season 2 because it's punctual and I feel like I need to get the right information out there sooner rather than later. But Ancient Apocalypse, Awful Archaeology Atlantis is coming. Don't worry. It'll be a hot sec. I'm sorry, guys, but these things take a long fucking time to make. The Department of Justice Federal Bureau of Investigation from Washington, D.C. asks, did you commit several homicides in 2013? I'm gonna get my attorney for this one. Vivian from Washington says, hi, do you have any tips or tricks or general advice about college? Things such as budgets, what the workflow is like, things not to do, etc. I'm graduating this year and I'm planning to either go into computer science or zoology. Wait, you're asking for advice about college and you're almost done? All right, Vivian, I'm gonna give advice to people who are entering college. One, fucking enjoy it. It goes by really fast. Take a lot of pictures, film photos. I started taking film photos. It's a great way to look back on it. Be a yes man, obviously within reason. Don't do anything fucking stupid. But have fun while you're there. Make new friends. Go to some parties, you know. Do a dumbass thing every once in a while. And someday you'll be old and jaded like me at the ripe old age of 24 years old. Oh, and budgeting? No, I didn't do that. I just, you know, the budget is how much you have, and when it hits zero, then you're fucked. What's your, Finn from Colorado asks, what's your favorite dinosaur and why? Archaeopteryx. Feathers. Weston from Utah asks, how do I convince my red pill friend that global warming is happening faster than it naturally should when he keeps going off about how the climate has always been changing? Kick him in the head. I don't even know. Again, my primary degree is in environmental science. I don't fucking know how people don't believe in climate.
Simon Ox Fizz, or read his book Firmament. It is brilliant. Thank you. PSA over.
Change. My only explanation for it is that they literally have not researched it at all outside of like climate denialists who are like, the scientists are lying to you, and they've never actually researched it. So what I would say to you, Weston, is be like, tell your friend to literally just like Google, like go on the fucking NOAA website and just search climate change. Like, any information on it will convince you that climate change is fucking real. Quentin from Tennessee asks, as a kind of recent college grad, what did it feel like to suddenly have a large enough audience that you can give tours in Turkey and Peru? Overwhelming as fuck, but also awesome. I'm so grateful for this. Oh, you're getting a live preview, live POV of what it's like to go to the bar with Milo. Guys, I just gotta say, I'm so grateful for this right now. Like, if I could do anything else in the world, I fucking wouldn't. I would do this. I just want to say, Declan from Pearl River, New York asks a few questions, but the one I'm going to answer is, have you ever met someone who was, for lack of a better term, stuck in a pseudoscience pipeline who managed to escape it? A little bit of myself, actually. It's not really pseudoscience, but it's definitely in the same pipeline. When I was 16, in like 2016, I was regrettably totally into like the woke feminist gets wrecked compilation. Cringe, I know. But I had some very kind friends who were like, hey Milo, you're being a little bit of a fucking dick. And I was like, oh, wow, actually I think you're right. Maybe basic human decency is something that's kind of important. And I managed to get off it. And I think that I was exposed to a lot of creators who were in that sort of red pill space online at the time. And that's why I do a lot of what I do now, because I know that the internet is a place.
Hello, Scrubby. Welcome. We are near the end of Milo. 2 million subscribers.
Place where that sort of zeitgeist sort of proliferates. And so I think it's really important to have people online who can help correct people and steer them onto the path towards the fucking light before they end up too far down the path of the red pill bullshit. So yeah, me, I guess. Actually, no, he asked some other good questions. Would you be interested in having a face-to-face collaboration with prominent members of pseudoscience communities such as Philip, or are you worried it would just end up in a shouting match with nothing accomplished? Unless there was some special circumstances, I probably wouldn't opt to have a discussion with people like Philip Ziba or Graham Hancock, because I'm not trying to change their minds. Instead, I am trying to present information to the people that listen to them so that they can actually draw their own conclusions. With Graham Hancock, he's written a million fucking books. He's built a career off this. Do you really think that a debate with him is going to change his mind? Plus, you see the way that Flint Dibble has been treated after the debate with him and Joe Rogan, where he absolutely buried fucking Graham Hancock. I'm not going to subject myself to the same bullshit. And people like Philip Ziba, yeah, I could talk to him about the ethics of using his channel in a pretty unethical way, if you ask me. But by and large, I think that the more important job is to try and get into the ears of the people who listen to stuff like that and present them with information that will steer them off that path for themselves. People who are down this pipeline are incentivized to continue believing in it, and it would, you know, kind of potentially ruin their public image if they were suddenly like, I've changed my mind. Personally, I think that would be the biggest move a person could do, especially someone like Philip. I think him being like, hey, this was a kind of irresponsible of me and I'm gonna do better going forward, I would absolutely commend that. But that's a hard thing to do. The hardest thing to do is to admit accountability for doing something irresponsible. So I don't even know if it'd be worth the time. Maybe that's cynical of me. You can disagree with me, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Okay, we're getting towards the end of it here, folks, but we got a good one from Caitlin from Virginia. Love your stuff, longtime fan. Could we get an updated pet introduction? All right, I think it's time to do the pets. Okay, so there are 3 cats and a dog. Most of the cats are really snug downstairs, so I'm gonna get some B-roll of them, but I can introduce you to a couple of them. Lupin, come here. Yeah. Hi, Poochie. Come here. Hey, come here. Come here. Up, up. Hey, hey. Up, up. Hey, up, up. Up, up. Yay! This is Lupin. She's a little baby guy. Lupin is a miniature Aussie doodle. She's the best guy ever. She has 2 different colored eyes because she's a bougie ass bitch. Ooh, don't lick my nose. I don't like when you do that. Good girl. Where's Neats? Flank her. Lupin, this is how you got domesticated. All right. Neats is on the way. There's fucking trash on my desk this whole time and none of you guys told me about this? That's fucking gross.
Yeah.
Baby guy.
Baby guy.
This is frickin' baby guy. This is Schminky. Her real name is Manzanita, but we call her Neats. She's a big fluffy baby Maine Coon. What if hold on, I need to show her in her full longness.
I can take one end.
One end. Look, this is her. Neats. This is baby guy. Oh, you smell like a little fucking man. Okay, and the other pets are, the other cats are Louie and Klaus. We'll have to find them though.
This is Louie. He's the coldest boy ever, and he sits on my laptop for heat in the snow in the winter. And then there's this weird guy. I think he's a cat. He might be an alien. That's Klaus.
Well, guys, I think I want to table the questions for now, and I want to give all of you watching a very, very sincere thank you. I think I said this in my 1 million subscriber video, but I remember watching a lot of YouTubers growing up, and in all their 1 million subscriber videos, they were like, thank you guys so much. It's, you know, such an honor. And I was like, okay, yeah, get off your high horse. But I get it now. I really get it now. I mean when I say that this would be literally nothing without you guys, and I'm so fucking grateful that all of you have supported what I do and love watching what I do. It really brings me the most joy I could possibly imagine. There is literally nothing on earth I would rather be doing than this, and I'm so grateful for all of you for giving me this opportunity. I also want to give a really big thank you to the people that make this possible. I know that the one that you guys see all the time is me, but all the videos I make would not be possible without my amazing and fucking highly supportive and patient team. So I would like to give a really big thank you to my animators, Kayla, Josh, SJ, and my day 1 MVP, Gianfranco, my phenomenal and ever-talented animator, Kale, my visual designer, Maggie, and my research assistant, Julie. I truly mean when I say it would not be possible without you guys, and I am infinitely thankful for all of you dealing with my bullshit every Monday morning. And I'd like to give a really big thank you to all of my friends and family for supporting me as I decided to do this non-traditional form of business. My partner, Zaboski, my best friend, Henry, my dad, and every other person who has been with me for this journey. I don't know where this entire thing is headed, and frankly, I don't really care. But what I do know is that I am going to just keep pouring my time and energy into this because I love what we have going here. I don't need this anymore. And I'm really grateful to all of you for making this possible. Schminky, come here. You want to hang out with me for the last bit of the video? You want to be with me in the outro? No? You little fucking bastard. Maybe I'll film a little bit more of a coherent thing. after this is worn off. So as my team and I take a little bit of a break here for the winter, I would like to give one last big thank you to every single one of you. It has been an amazing year, and I am so grateful to see how things have grown. And for all of the dedicated fans that are here for the 1,000,000 subscriber video and have watched this far, I'm especially thankful for you for supporting and being so invested in what we have created here. You are the real MVP. No, Schminky! No. Sneaky little fucking cat. All right, Schminky's not going to be in the outro. She ran away. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all so very much for watching. Remember to stay curious, stay inquisitive, and I guess I will see you at 3 million. To life, salud, lahaim.
Schminky. Oh, I see you, Schminky.
Yeah, come on out. Oh, gotcha. You think you're slick. You're not. You're so cute. I love you. What are you looking at? Why are you so fucking weird? What if I held you like a little baby? Oh yeah, what if I did it? Little foot went in my pocket. Yeah. What if I held her like a little baby, like a man, like a man, like a tiny little baby, little man? What am I doing on you? What about it? What if I did that?
Just to make it all clear, we want the same thing as you. This will all be over soon. Now here's a little pill, here's the truth. We're all gonna die. You feed the machine, bring them all back down to their knees. No time to waste, remind the slaves. Ain't gonna make it out alive today. I said, hey, you poison the well, watch it all burn, take him straight to hell. He's got the whole world in his hands. It was nice to know you. Bump and dance, come on. Bump and dance, come on. Said, hey, you feed the machine, bring them all back down to their knees. No time to waste, remind the slaves, they ain't gonna make it out alive today. I said, hey, you poison the well, watch it all burn, take him straight to hell. He's got the whole world in his hands. It was nice to know you. Bump and dance, come on. Bump and dance, come on.
As you prepare your breakfast, think of others. Do not forget to feed the pigeons. As you wage your wars, think of others. Do not forget those who fight for peace. As you pay your water bill, think of others, those who are nursed by clouds.
As you return home, to your home, think of others. Do not forget the people of the camps.
As you sleep and count the stars, think of others, those who have nowhere to sleep.
As you liberate yourself with metaphors, think of others, those who have lost the right to speak.
As you think of others far away, think of yourself and say, if only I were a candle in the night.
This is for Palestine and Quds, the capital Jerusalem. Unarmed people marching to the wall and they're shooting them. Suppression is a question, resistance is the answer. Long live Palestine, long live Gaza. Palestine and Quds, the capital Jerusalem. Unarmed people marching to the wall and they're shooting them. Suppression is a question, resistance is the answer. Long live Palestine, long live Gaza.
All you see is war every time you turn your head at night. Bloodshed on the floor, mother cries who cries for her this time. There's truth between these walls, see the lies between the lines they hide. Where the bullets coming from the tyrants dressed in our disguise.
I'm a rider till the end, even if I got to push back for all my friends. Cause you know that I'm a fighter, let me see a lighter. And we not gonna stop the Palestine is free. But still you know that I'm a rider till the end, even if I got to push back for all my friends. Cause you know that I'm a fighter, let me see a lighter. And we not gonna stop the Palestine is free.
Taught to not love, taught to be blind, taught to not care. Tell me what's real, borderlines, military despair. How to exist if there's no rights to be human in fear? And if you take away your home, where's the heart supposed to live? Taught to not love, taught to be blind, taught to not care. Tell me what's real, borderlines, military despair. How to exist if there's no rights to be human in fear? And if you take away your home, where's the heart supposed to live?
Could resist without a wheelchair. 10-year challenge, tell Regev we are still here. And tell that killer Netanyahu he should feel fear. The old live through us and guarantee the children will care. Criminal, not invincible, and you know it. Sarmadoon still sitting in their stoic. May not feel us with you when you listen to our poems. You inspire humanity, your resistance is heroic regardless of talk. Here's time we answer the call. Through your strength of spirit you provide example for all. How to live, how to love when attacked from the clouds above. Loud and clear the songs you sung can't be drowned by the sound of guns. Won't just watch your tragic times through a satellite dish. The least that we can give you is an anthem like this. They panic tried to analyze and sanitize this, but we love you more than ever. Still Palestine lives. Sing it with me now. Free, free Palestine. 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 Free, free Palestine.
No change, no. Run away, away. All I hate to face. Time to change this state. No change, no. Run away, away. All I hate to face. Time to change this state. No change, no.
Continuing oppression of the Palestinians, encircling of the people of Gaza, the killing of civilians, the burning of homes, the daily oppression, the theft of land, the apartheid system in the West Bank, where there are two road systems, and I've been, and I'm sure you have, and you see the Israeli road, you see like a spanking new highway with just the settler cars going backwards and forwards. Then you see the old Palestinian roads, and it's clearly it's people living under two sets of laws. It's an apartheid system. So all this is being uncovered, and the boycotts and divestment and sanctions campaign, which I support, and I'm sure many other people do, as a peaceful protest against the Israeli oppression. Support groups have got to keep proclaiming the rights of the Palestinians are the right to return, the right to their homeland, really, and the theft of land is Israel is breaking international law. It is breaking the Geneva Convention.
They all laughed as they turned around slow. They said, you ain't welcome around here anymore. You just might as well go. You wiped the blood from his face as he slowly came to his knees. He said, I'll be back when you least expect it. Hell's coming with me. Hell's coming with me. There is a hill at the bottom of the valley, where all the poor souls go when they die. And if you listen real close, you can hear
You hear them like a ghost. You never make it out alive. The town at the bottom of that hill.
they got a secret that
Get the key. Got a black magic picture and a rifle and signature. You're heading up that hill to the grave. Israel, wreck my soul. Get a bill of money and you steal from the poor. You're gonna hell if you ring that bell. I'll pay the devil twice as much to keep your soul.
there was a drifter passing through that little valley. He had promised
Promise he was coming back to town. Knowing by the feast is by the gun around his waist. And I can turn right down to the ground. First there was fire, and there was smoke. And the preacher man was hanging by a rope. And they all got on their knees and begged that drifter better please. Least his speak for his spoke. I am the righteous, I am doggone. I am the devil that you forgot. And one day you'll see that I'll be back, I guarantee. And hell's coming, hell's coming, hell's coming with me. Well, wreck my soul. Pockets full of money and you steal from the poor and on your way to hell. If you ring that bell, I say, hell's coming with me.
Oh, a bop it. I didn't see. Don't tell me what to do. All right, fine, hand it over. Come on. Hey, this is cool. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Heard you were saying shit, I caught a ray of it. You shouldn't play with it. You blew my mind, it's a joke, so that's all fine, ain't a joke, no. Pray to the guy from the bottle, Rolex right, all the ops on my bottle. Burn CDs to the top of my Tahoe, falling down when I speed on a pothole. Napster and I down the whole load. All these magazines on the floor, though. Telling me that's a no-no. Thank God grab the chrome, so the chopper the best. She made the cut, so I hope that I'm blessed. You got the shit, but she copping for less. Got it for free, deny you best. Pull up. 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 You don't wanna phone me, slipping it up, you surrounded like Dobie. Act like a lizard, you lonely. You taste like a lizard, you soapy. Meditate days, I'm lonely. I'm E11, I'm Obi. Feeling like home is the only. Came off the bench like Ginobili. Time had been rolling, no rolling. Possession ain't nothing, they told me. I spoke with the master on 03. They told me that I better associate. On my pet nobly, I got the hands with forbidden the clothies. They wanna beef, but they eating the 4-3. I'm fucking with God and we know she. Pull up. 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 Flat stands, I'm feeling forceful. Authored more so, take a torso. Ay, ay. Fuck the Morse code that I forego. I'm resourceful. Ay, ay. I got the crop, I got the bag and I ain't even shot. Gave me the Sadies, I ain't even caught. All that they gave me, I guess, is a payday. Bank would've seen me, calling the Mayday. Ain't validate, Mayday, wouldn't go low. Popping the CD, showing the photo. See me with Ruby, saved like a Toto. I'm good for the dough. Talents, I balance, I flip in a row. Water the wrist like I'm flipping on boats. She got us a him, but she giving me more. Pull up. 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 Pull up.
Father, God King, really do I ask for favors? I'm knocking on your door cause I see the friendship. I'm who's the prisoner far from home. Odysseus,
Divine
imperfection.
Is that
what you seek?
To untie
My apprehensions
that were
placed
placed on
on
that
that
brick.
brick.
You are
We're playing with thunder
for a
manful
manful
shape.
But if
He's worth the risk of going under.
Why
Why not make it a game?
Convince
Each of them that he ought to be released, and I'll release him. Who's them? Apollo. Hephaestus. Aphrodite. Ares. Hera.
What do you say?
Great.
Very well. All right.
Bring it.
Apollo, you all know I'm a fan of catchy songs. So with so many sirens gone, I think God is in the wrong. They were trying to do him worse. All he did was reimburse them. Now they'll trap the curse to live another day and sing another verse.
If that's true,
Release him. Hephaestus.
Trust is not given, is forged. Why should I give him my support? He sacrificed his own cohort.
Did you forget
They he was betrayed and then imprisoned. You make the right decision. He can still build a future with those who miss him.
Fine,
Release
release him.
him. Yeah, mighty. Just Into his mother, but let her die with broken hearts.
He was busy fighting
The Cyclops
didn't feel the
pain that his mother felt as well. Wait. Please reconsider this.
Really, Athena? These old tricks? What kind of sick coward holds back his power while his friends get devoured? He didn't even fight Scylla, didn't even try to kill her. Hides inside a wooden horse to get the job done. Never handles things up front, but that can weak like his son.
Hold your tongue, besides my friend. Tell your lover that a broken heart melt. You want more bloodshed than set him free. But get back to his homestead, you make everybody believe.
Release him.
Hey baby. So many heroes, so many times. Anyone can reason why you should prepare. Try harder. You can do better than that.
Never once has he cheated on his wife.
Release him.
I played
your game and won. Release him.
You dare to defy me, to make me feel shame. No one beats me. No one wins my game. Thunder, bring her through the ringer. Show her I'm the judgment call, the one who makes her kingdom fall. Is she dead?
Let him go. Have you forgotten the lessons I taught you?
Athena!
Have you forgotten to turn off your heart? Have you forgotten the lessons I taught you?
Athena!
Have you forgotten to turn off your heart? This is not you. I see you changing from how I designed you. Have you forgotten your purpose? Let me remind you. Goddess of wisdom, master of war. Life has one mission: create the greatest warrior. I had a challenge, a test, a skill. Magic board, only the best could kill. One day a boy came. Whose mind felt the bosom will. Maybe one day will follow me. Make a greater tomorrow. You see, I know you'll change the world, 'cause he's a warrior of the mind. Maybe one day I'll reach him and we can build his skills as I teach him. If there's a problem, he'll have the answer. He's a warrior of the mind.
Show yourself. I know you're watching me. Show yourself. I can see you.
How can you see through my spell?
I was lying, and you fell for my bluff.
Well done, enlighten me, what's your name?
You first, and maybe I'll do the same.
Nice try, but two can play this game.
Nah, don't be modest, I know you're a goddess. So let's be honest, you are Athena.
Athena,
badass in the arena. Unmatched, witty, and queen of the best strategies we've seen.
If you're looking for a mentor, I'll make sure your time's well spent.
Sounds like a plan, goddess and man, best as a friend.
We'll see where it ends.
Okay.
Maybe one day they'll follow me and we'll make a greater tomorrow. Then they'll see I know we'll change the world, 'cause we are the warriors of the mind. Maybe one day we'll reach them and we can build their skills as we teach them. If there's a problem, we'll have the answer. We are the warriors of the mind. I still intend to make sure you don't fall behind. Don't forget that you're a warrior of a very special kind. You are a warrior of the mind. Don't disappoint me.
Good morning. Welcome to the Mad Cat stream. Morning, King. Or my planetary brewing vessel. Can everyone hear me? Fantastic.
I set upon the sea to search for phantom tales from tales my mum told me.
No wrath of the mouse. Not risking it. If you want, go and listen to Red. It is a really good song. That is one of the Descendants I haven't seen. Back to Sail North.
A ghostly galleon filled with gold, she sails alone. No crew nor captains guiding, and can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Sun and horizon met, I weighed the anchor, hoisted sails, my course was set. My cutthroat crew conspiring with the stars, our guide. They point the way through perils fraught and lead us to the one they call the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. Hold tightly to her helm, she'll try to drown you just for spite. Heave-ho, till first light, she'll give a fight to all who try to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. A mighty tempest grew, the banshee cried, turn back, but our resolve was true. We point.
Is that better? Ahoy, ahoy.
To bow ahead and shouted,
oops.
We'll break through. The jaws of hell can't hold us back. There's nothing that can keep us from the Shadow. The winds blew stronger still. The ocean raged against us, tried to break our will. The sirens in the water, thirsty for the kill. Our vessel reeling to and fro to bear us to the one they call the Shadow. None can keep us from the one they call the Shadow.
Amazing.
Fight to all who try to claim the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. As thunder split the sky, the lightning drew a shape beyond the tempest sigh. A chill ran through me spine as legend came alive. Avast I cried, all hands, as we prepare to take the one they call the Shadow. All hands! As we approached her shell, the skies went silent, seas went calm as if by spell. No signs of fight or flight were in her, all was well, until I tried to take her helm. Her rigging came alive, she hung my crew before me eyes. She stole my sight and cursed me captain of the Shadow. She took my eyes and cursed me captain of the Shadow. Lead left, hard right, steer clear of her, I fear she'll eat your soul, she'll take your life. Heave-ho, till first light, she'll claim the souls of those who try to tame the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow. None can tame the one the sailors call the Shadow.
You can fight a war with drones, you can fight a war with loans, you can fight a war with gas or cans of paint. But don't you realize that the game is compromised if you think that this is something that it ain't? We got images of murder that don't manage to disturb an international order that is bordering absurd. And no one gets the freedom they were told that they deserve till they realize that freedom's not a noun. It's a verb, it's a verb, freedom is a verb, something never finished, never done. It's something you must make, it's something you must take, it's
something you must constantly become. Well, this weekend revolution, it's a radical inclusion. It's a holiday of popular revolt. It's the social interaction of inconsequential actions using faces to replace a silent vote. But lower pay and higher rents, another kind of violence. The violence of silence and of greed. It's the violence of feeling your irrelevance, revealing every way in which you never will be freed. It's a verb, an action and an urge, as fertile as the barrel of a gun. And it happens out of need, it's a fire and a seed, and its terrible potential has begun. Well, they'll tell you that your liberty is constantly in jeopardy. It's something you must loyally defend. But isn't it demeaning when your well-intended meanings mean your means will have to justify your ends? So improvise a barricade of furniture cascading as a carnival of helmets in the flood. For the bottles can be filled with either gasoline or lager or detergent that'll wash away your blood. It's a verb, freedom is a verb, something never finished, never done. It's something you can fake, and it's something that'll break if it ain't something that you constantly become. It's a verb, an action and an urge, as fertile as a barrel of a gun. And it happens out of need, it's a fire and a seed, and its terrible potential has begun.
Back in 48, took our homes away. You were uninvited, we were forced to pay. Not anymore, no, not today. Palestine, the land of the brave. Only courage is what remains. This blood runs through my veins. What you think that we're afraid? I'll remind you of our name. You ready? PA, we will defend LE until the end. ST ain't going nowhere. INE, this is our land.
Allah is with us. You can do what you want to me. Allah is with us. Right from the river to the sea. With us through blood, sweat and tears. Whether it's days, months or years. Allah is with us. Allah is with us.
Fast forward the years and you haven't left. Now the world has seen how you made this mess. You need to leave, got the wrong address. This is Palestine, 100%. I promise I'm not backing down. The whole world sees who to blame, and now we'll stand and shout it out. I'll remind you of our name. You ready? PA, we will defend LE until the end. ST ain't going nowhere. INE, this is our land.
Allah is with us. You can do what you want to me. Allah is with us. Right from the river to the sea. With us through blood, sweat and tears. Whether it's days, months or years. Allah is with us. Allah is with us.
Oh Lord, protect our land and our home. makes us go. But one thing is for sure, you were always there. You were always there.
Allah is with us. You can do what you want to me. Allah is with us. Right from the river to the sea, with us through blood, sweat and tears. Whether it's days, months or years, Allah is with us. Allah is with us.
Dearly beloved, for your entertainment, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Hell's latest arrival, the Equal Opportunity Killer.
Hello, it's nice to meet you. Can you tell me where I am? I don't know how I got here, but I think I'm starting to understand. I don't belong among the angels, and maybe that's just fine with me. The things I did up there were high school, but now I'm going for my degree. Hey, sorry, but you just got in my way. I promise, honey, I can feel your pain, and maybe I enjoy it just a little bit. Does that make me insane? Haven't been the same since I expired. Doesn't mean that I plan to retire. And now I have the power to bathe all of you in entertaining fire. Wait a minute, do I know you? Weren't you an old pal of mine? Departed from us far too early, but now we're meeting a second time. We used to have such fun together, and maybe you have what I need. But first I have one tiny question. Tell me, do you demons bleed? Hey, sorry, but you just got in my way. I promise, honey, I can feel your pain, and maybe I enjoy it just a little bit. Does that make me insane? Haven't been the same since I expired. Doesn't mean that I plan to retire. And now I have the power to bathe all of you in entertaining fire. You just got in my way. I promise, honey, I can feel your pain, and maybe I enjoy it just a little bit. Does that make me insane?
In flames of death's eternal rain, we ride towards the fight. When the darkness is falling down and the times are tough or right, the sound of evil laughter falls around the world tonight. Fighting hard, fighting on for steel through the wastelands evermore. The scattered souls will feel the hell bodies wasted on the shores. On the blackest flames in hell's domain, we watch the as they go. In fire and
Angelo is waiting. They're the gods of the Holy See. They're the gods of Christianity. The God through history is paid with salvation. They're the 189 in the service of heaven. They're protecting the holy line. It was 1527. Give the rights of the steps to heaven. Thy will be done. For the grace, for the might of the Lord, for the home of the holy, for the faith, for the way of the sword, give the rights of holy. For the grace, for the might of the Lord, in the name of his glory, for the faith, for the way of the sword, come and tell the story again. Salvation, with dedication, no capitulation, annihilation, no commendation, reincarnation, heaven is your destination. Joy for salvation, with dedication, no capitulation, annihilation, no commendation, reincarnation, heaven is your destination. In the name of God, for the grace, for the might of the Lord, for the home of the holy, for the faith, for the way of the sword, give the rights of holy, for the grace, for the might of the Lord, in the name of his glory, for the faith, for the way of the sword, come and tell the story, give the rights of holy, come and tell the Socialist story again.
The pagodas and the palaces dressed in goldly hide the damages.
Thank you, Eckler.
Geisha
Thank you,
as she
Eckler.
balances. Life's a cakewalk full of challenges. Go to Russia, see the Red Square, Lenin's body lying dead there. From Kyoto, Hiroshima, watch the black cloud crawling nearer. There were riots in America just when things were getting better. All the things I've done and seen
Thank you.
The missiles and the bombs sound like symphonies gone wrong. And if there is a God, they'll know why it's so hard to be human. To be human.
Okay. Let's see how far I can push this. Still not in the living room. But that damn wind is still going. Ah.
Hello everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Paul Joseph Watson video entitled The Truth About Gender. Well, that's the title now. When he posted it, it was called Why Women Suck at Sports, in all caps, before swiftly being changed for some reason. And you should probably go and watch that video just so you can be sure I'm not misrepresenting his arguments. It's only 8 minutes long, but that means if you speed it up, it's only 4 minutes long. And he sounds rather funny sped up, so that should hopefully take some of the edge off having to watch a Paul Joseph Watson video. Go on then.
He sounds rather funny whenever he opens his mouth. And I know this video anyway. So piss off, Paul. Boo.
Off you go. And welcome back, sorry about that. So then, what's the point of Paul's video? Well, it seems rather stupid at first, doesn't it? You know, all the football mistakes with the silly sound effect.
Counterpoint. What is the point of Paul? Over.
Some music, but it's actually a clever little bit of manipulation. This video exists to misrepresent feminist arguments about sports and reframe the discussion in such a way that makes feminists seem crazy whereas Paul Joseph Watson, and by extension his viewers, get to feel like enlightened truth speakers, quote, triggering the social justice warriors just by speaking basic obvious facts. And this is a fantasy, obviously, but before we get into the specifics of how, let's go through some of those basic obvious facts and have a bit of a chat about them. So then, men obviously outperform women at the top levels of most sports, and this is for a whole host of biological reasons. If we take a man and a woman of similar height and weight, the man will typically have a larger heart, higher lung capacity, denser bones, more muscle mass, and various other things that will usually give the man an advantage in most sports. Now I say typically and usually because of course there are outliers, men and women who fall outside the average, so you can get men who are worse than most women at sports and vice versa. And of course, with training, it's not too hard for the average woman to outperform the average untrained man. The majority of the time, though, women have to train longer and harder than men to attain the same level of ability, and at the top athletic level, say, the Olympics or top flight football, everyone's training pretty much all the time anyway, so this effectively squeezes women out of the running. However, even though women can't usually compete directly with the best men in each sport, these differences in ability might not actually be as different as you might expect. Women's records tend to lag behind men's by about 10%, but that's not 10% in everything, mind. There's a scale. Some records are closer than that, and others, mainly ones that are more dependent upon muscle mass like weightlifting, are much more exaggerated. So then, given all of this, what are the feminist arguments for integrating sports? Well, one argument I do see is in favour of integrating sports in which biological differences don't play as much of a part, say, shooting at the Olympics, for instance. The last time women were allowed to compete with men in shooting at the 1992 Olympics, a woman won a gold medal, and since then the sport has been segregated by gender. Now, some might say this is good, it allows more women to get represented at the top level or something like that, and others might see it differently and say it'd be better for women to be able to compete with men directly in these kinds of events. And I don't know, to be honest. I kind of see both sides, but that's one argument anyway, that maybe some sports are unnecessarily segregated. Another argument I see is in favour of more mixed sports, like we have mixed tennis and badminton, and that might be good, you know, you could have mixed relays and swimming and running and all sorts of team sports could have mixed divisions. So there are real conversations going on there. However, and this is to Paul, I have never seen any feminist make the case that we should just integrate something like boxing or MMA, say, and just leave it at that, because that would be incredibly stupid and dangerous. I've never seen any feminist deny that men generally outperform women at the top level of most sports. You see, Paul's problem here is that the actual arguments going on aren't as stupid as he'd like them to be, so he has to pretend. You see, the argument he wants to have is one in which crazed feminists insist that women are always equal to men in everything, and then Paul smirks and unsheaves all of his facts, and then the social justice warriors crawl away from him screeching, "You're a sexist." And it's a great plan, honestly, but the spanner in the works here is that these people he's talking about don't seem to actually exist, by and large. Paul gives a couple of examples in the video of people who are supposedly making the argument that he is countering. One is this post from feministing.com by a user named Vicky Chatwin. Paul read out part of it in a silly voice, of course. Now, what Paul missed was the concluding sentence. Maybe in things like boxing or lifting weights, men would have an advantage, but what about other sports which are not just about brute strength? Now, this conclusion makes it clear that Vicky Chatwin does understand that men have an advantage in certain sports and is actually talking about integrating those other sports, ones in which the differences don't play as much of a part. The other example Paul gives is from the start of the video.
So a while back I was having this debate with a feminist. She claimed that women could compete with men at soccer but weren't allowed to because of gender segregation in sports enforced by the patriarchy. This shit writes itself.
Now, I couldn't find the supposed argument Paul had. I searched through his Twitter and didn't find anything, and he's not usually above naming and shaming people, to be honest, but he doesn't here for some reason, so my guess would be that this conversation didn't actually take place. and he's just pretending it did because the only way he can win an argument is by making up what the other side said. But since I might be wrong about that, let's pretend this argument did take place anyway. So the imaginary slippery slope strawman feminist said, women can compete with men at soccer, but just aren't allowed to play against them because of the patriarchy or something. They do love blaming the patriarchy, don't they, those imaginary feminists? Now all I can imagine here is that Paul has either met a real-life caricature of a cartoon rabid feminist, or he's misunderstood a different argument. You see, there has been the odd case of clubs in men's lower division leagues trying to sign professional women footballers and being denied that by FIFA, who insist on the leagues being strictly divided. Now I can see someone making the case that men's clubs should be allowed to sign women if they want to. If you integrated the leagues in that way, keeping the women's leagues but also allowing women to play in the men's if they're able to, you'd end up with something like the current chess situation, and probably with similar arguments for and against that. Anyway, misunderstanding or not, Paul has framed the argument such that the feminists he's arguing against are all delusional, and all he has to do to beat them is cite basic biological facts and tell the truth. It's quite a low bar he's set for himself there, and surprisingly, he will fail to clear it because, as we'll see, even with dishonest framing, Paul just can't help lying. For example, Paul includes this clip in his video.
That's because no matter what gender pronoun you call yourself, biology is king.
So that's the supposed world's strongest woman arm wrestling against a supposedly average man and losing. The implication there being that even the strongest woman in the world is weaker than the average man. So I went looking for the context here, and first off I'd like to submit the following clip for your consideration.
It's the moment of truth. It's man versus woman. Get in the house. Where you gonna hold her hand? Hey, Rob, stop your... Oh. Ready. Set. Go. Oh.
So that was American strongwoman Jill Mills beating comedian and not professional athlete Sam Tripoli in an arm wrestle on a show called The Wild World of Spike. Sam Tripoli was one of the 3 hosts on that show alongside Kit Cope and Jason Ellis. Jason Ellis being the man from the clip that Paul showed in his video where he labelled him the average man. And here is average man Jason Ellis winning a professional MMA fight. You see, Jason Ellis isn't actually the average man, he's a trained athlete. Do you think that this fairly represents the average man, Paul? Because if that's the case, I think you need to look in a mirror. You look fairly average, Paul. No offence, but according to you, this means you're stronger than Jill Mills. So here's Jill Mills deadlifting 475 pounds. Repeatedly, I might add. And I've got a challenge for you, Paul. If you post a video of you deadlifting that weight even once, I'll donate £500 to a charity of your choice. And I'll even give you until Christmas to do it stronger than Jill Mills, clearly. And that's to reassure his male audience that women aren't about an Australian football match.
Look what happened when the professional, international Australian women's soccer team played a team of 15-year-old boys. The 15-year-old boys team won 7-0. They called this a shock result. It wasn't a shock result. Even at 15, the boys were physically superior to a highly trained team of adult female professionals.
So there was a lot of deception and lying by omission in that clip, which I noticed because I'm lucky enough to just remember this incident from when it actually happened. So, losing 7-0, it's not a very good result, is it really? But Paul declares this not shocking at all because of the obvious biological advantage that the boys have over the women. Now this might lead you to believe that this match was a one-off, like an exhibition battle of the sexes sort of thing, and that's just not true. This match was a warm-up for an international friendly game that the Australian women's team was playing in the run-up to the Rio Olympics. You see, they play these sorts of games all the time. There aren't enough women's teams around at that level to get in enough training games, so they play against the youth teams of men's football clubs. That's another point actually. This was the youth team of a professional football club. It wasn't just a random group of teenage boys. And it actually was a shock result, because the last time the women played against teenage boys in a similar match, they drew 2-2. And as coach Alan Stajcic explains, we've probably played 40 matches against boys over the last 18 months, and the objectives are always the same: to test out our players, to find out their strengths and weaknesses, and see where our team structure is good and where it's not. In fact, for all of those actually involved, they seemed surprised that the match even had a reported result. You know, it was a tragedy. Half the first team weren't even present. And it was a rotating player match, meaning they kept swapping players out and testing new positions. The captain was playing in a jumper. Also, the women's team was themselves fielding players like Ellie Carpenter, who was 16 at the time, the exact same age as the boys she was playing against. Regardless, 7-0 is still a bad result, but it was a warm-up match where they were trying out new players and tactics. It's not as though they were playing as if they were in the World Cup final. No, the only reason this news story took off is because it allowed sexist men to have a bit of a chortle about women being crap at something, you know, completely ignoring the dozens of other times that the women's team has played similar matches and not lost 7-0. Oh, I am good at ruining all the fun, aren't I? Now, the oddest portion of Paul's video is his little bit on Bill Nye's recent, apparently controversial show about sex and gender. And this was odd to me for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I went and watched that show and it seemed a fairly basic rundown of the modern scientific understanding of sex and gender, interspersed with frankly rather rubbish attempts at comedy. So it was surprising to me that anyone even took issue with any of this, other than the comedy, that is. The other reason this was odd to me is that the show has absolutely nothing to do with the different sporting abilities of men and women. Paul seems to have just shoved it in there because it's a recent meme-y thing about gender to talk about. So let's talk about it briefly anyway. Now, the fairly recent scientific understanding of sex and gender being different things, and even when only talking about biological sex, there are different chromosome combinations that neatly fit into just two categories, seems to have left the anti-feminist and
Morning, Neuroragget. Welcome. We are watching Paul Joseph Watson being a dick. No surprise.
anti-social justice crowd a little bit confused. You know, sex and gender are the same thing. They say there's only two. How could our precious science, which we claim to love, be leaving us behind? And that's because science changes, it updates. With additional evidence, it may come to new conclusions over time. And just as creationists mock science for its evolving and changing understanding of things, the rationals and anti-feminists are now mocking Bill Nye just for reporting the current scientific consensus. And my favourite take on all this was Ian Miles Chung, aka the wrongest man on Twitter, retweeting the criticisms of an actual creationist saying that there are only two genders. Gender politics makes strange bedfellows. So anyway, as I close out today, I'm going to put in a bunch of clips of men fucking up at football just to balance Paul's clips of women fucking up at football, as if a bunch of cherry-picked clips prove anything, you know. So watching this video, I kind of got
that last one with Stephen Gerrard completely fluffing it. What the hell? Seriously, what the hell?
the sense that Paul doesn't really understand why people like sports, because it's not always about watching the very best of the best, or everyone in England would only watch Chelsea, say, because they won the league. Or everyone would only watch the heavyweight boxing and MMA fights. I mean, they're technically the strongest, but they're not always the most interesting to watch, are they? Similarly, women's sports can be fun to watch, even completely divorced from the fact that they can't compete with the best men. You know, Ronda Rousey's career has been incredible to watch, and the story of her dominance and
It has been.
downfall is as interesting as anything happening in men's MMA. You know, far from only wanting to see the best of the best perform, people tend to like an underdog story, you know. The best football match I've ever seen, not in terms of sheer ability, remember, but in terms of entertainment and excitement, was the 2011 Women's World Cup final, which was Japan versus the United States. Now, Japan had already shocked everyone by getting to the final. They had to first beat hosts and current world champions, Germany, and then they had to come back from being behind against Sweden, and then they had to face the Americans in the final, and were expected to lose handily, having never once beaten them in 25 previous appearances. The Americans were much taller and stronger and faster than the Japanese, and they were dominant throughout most of the match, with the Japanese barely holding them back. And they equalised in the final minutes of extra time with one of the most inexplicable goals I've ever seen. You know, what happened there even? I don't know. It just sort of somehow went into the goal. So the match went to penalties. Penalties in the World Cup final, always very exciting, isn't it? And I didn't give Japan much of a chance here because their goalkeeper appears to be the smallest person in the entire world, but she saved 2, and Japan won. It was the perfect underdog beating the odds and winning story, and if you're prevented from being...
I saw that. That match was awesome. Well done, Japan. America, I think they're third in women's football, I believe.
Being entertained by something like this because you're sitting there thinking, well, they couldn't beat the German men's team or something like that, then that's just sad, frankly. It doesn't all have to be about gender, you know. So anyway, Paul,
Correct.
Nobody thinks that males and females are exactly equal in ability in everything except the feminists that live in your head. You're in an argumentative cul-de-sac talking to yourself. Your fans are a collective, fragile male ego who want to believe that the average man is an MMA fighter. You know, you're not triggering anyone or speaking truth to power. You're being a shoulder to cry on for lonely men who are scared of ladies. Anyway, go and do that deadlift video. I want it by Christmas. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. We hit our next Patreon goal. Well, hey, thanks to the support of all these lovely people you can see on the screen right now. I couldn't do it without you, and you're all wonderful, so give yourself a firm handshake and pat on the back. If you like my videos and want to see more of them, consider joining this list of names by pledging me $1. Now, I say $1, you can pledge me way more than that if you like. I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but I'm genuinely happy for any support, really. Also, like and subscribe and follow me on Twitter and all that jazz, if you feel like. Right, see you next time, folks. Hello everyone, this is a video about TL semicolon DR, or teal deer. You see, because it's a teal deer, yeah. And in particular, this video is a response to his video, Anita Sarkeesian Doesn't Understand How to Be a Feminist, concerning Anita Sarkeesian's speech at the How to Be a Feminist panel at All About Women 2015. But before we get to that, well, you know the drill by now. So the videos I'm asked to respond to broadly fall into 2 categories. There's the, for want of a better word, intellectual videos. You know, they cite studies and news stories and sources and at least attempt some sort of academic defense of their positions. And on the other hand, we've got the peanut gallery, the hecklers. And what they do is watch someone, usually a feminist,
and usually Anita Sarkeesian, to be honest, say a sentence, and then they cut away to a cartoon animal doing the DreamWorks face, and they say a naughty word. And I've honestly struggled to come up with a response to this sort of video. You know, quite a few people have suggested that I look at Bearing, and well, let's briefly look at Bearing. And here's one of his responses from his video, "The Young Turks have finally lost the plot."
And listen to you, or be near you, or whatever. Okay, fine, try to make that case. It's stupid, but you can make that case. They're claiming that day that they're a man or a woman or whatever.
You know, your face just pisses me right off, cunt. Fuck you.
You know, how do you respond there? What could I possibly say back to that? Or this?
They're trying to pretend that it's only so that guys can go into women's bathrooms. No, that's not the way that being transgendered works.
Suck a bucket of dicks, you fuckhead. I'm not even going to argue with you.
You know, there's no argument here. It's just mindless preaching to the choir. It's not substantive enough to get a grasp on. And well, I'll be honest, I've not watched all of Bearing's videos, so maybe I'm being unfair. If he has ever made anything better than that, someone please let me know. Absent an argument, I guess one way to respond to these heckling videos is to turn the particular shtick of whichever heckler it is back on themselves. But I don't want to do that with Bearing, because it'd just be me calling him a dickhead for 20 minutes, and I don't think anyone really wants to watch that, and I don't want to make that either. It'd be entirely too negative. But with Teal Deer, I think I've found my man. You see, Teal Deer has a particular quirk that I have no problem at all with turning back on him. You see, he's a pedant.
As a woman on YouTube, I would describe my experience as careful, empowering, brave.
Right, I'm gonna go full grammar Nazi autist on this because I can. Careful and brave are not experiences. Those are methods of acting. They are a way of being. It's not something that you experience. The actual sentence that you'd want to use would be, my experience on YouTube has involved me needing to be careful. My experience on YouTube required me to be brave.
It's realizing that being a feminist is a lifelong learning endeavor, and that we will make some mistakes on the way. And we should be compassionate to ourselves when that happens.
And speaking of mistakes that you make, Anita, I really think that you should look up the definition of the word compassion, because it doesn't mean what you think it means.
That's right. A pedant. An honest-to-God, old-school, dictionary-quoting pedant. And that's going to be our angle right there. We're going to be smug and pedantic, right back at Teal Deer. And I admit, I'm cheating a bit here by responding to a video about Anita Sarkeesian, who, for whatever reason, always brings out the worst in these guys. She's the red rag to the dumb YouTube bull. Or deer, in this case. So let's get to it.
So throughout high school and college, I was involved with clubs, organizing against wars in the Middle East, raising awareness about climate change, and demanding gay and lesbian rights.
Ah yes, because women have truly always been the primary victims of war. They are also quite obviously the group most affected by climate change, and it's a well-documented fact that homosexual men need feminism. The only thing that you've mentioned there that even comes close to being an issue for feminism is lesbian rights, and that is purely because some lesbians may choose to identify themselves as being feminists. But you do realize that you can be a lesbian and not a feminist, right? So you really shouldn't presume to speak for all lesbian women everywhere, you heterosexual oppressive shitlord. After all, nothing quite says I'm fighting for equality like speaking over all of those marginalized voices.
So we're off to a good start. Anita says she was involved with a bunch of social justice causes, and then Teal Deer cuts in to explain how he thinks those causes aren't feminist causes. And there's a problem here. Teal Deer cut Anita off in the middle of a sentence. You see, the start of Anita's speech reads like this. But that's not the end of the sentence right there. She goes on to say, so I was heavily involved with social justice causes, but I still didn't call myself a feminist. Now, nowhere here is the implication that Anita does actually think that, say, climate change, for instance, is a feminist cause. She's merely listing some social justice causes she was involved with, the implication being that one might expect someone who is heavily involved with a bunch of social justice causes to be a feminist. However, Anita's point is that despite being involved with these various causes, she wasn't a feminist. Cutting in to explain how those issues don't make you a feminist is jumping the gun, because that was her point. She wasn't a feminist. You see, TLD is responding to only a sentence fragment here, so he got the wrong end of the stick and thought that the examples Anita listed were exclusively examples of what she thinks are feminist causes. But they weren't, or at least they weren't necessarily. I mean, Anita might think that war, for instance, is a feminist issue, and there's plenty of arguments for that. One of the arguments for that is that it's mostly men who are expected to go and fight in wars, which TLD actually mentioned incorrectly, thinking that he was contradicting the idea that war is a feminist issue. But, you know, there are other arguments. The necessary relaxation of some traditional gender roles during wartime is certainly an interesting feminist issue, in my opinion. And I say in my opinion because it's just my opinion. Something to keep in mind going forward is that there is no one fixed meaning of feminism. Whether or not certain issues are feminist issues is arguable. You know, feminism at a fundamental level is an idea. There is no feminism element on the periodic table. There are no feminism atoms we can look at under a microscope to see if something is actually really feminist or not. Is this pedantic enough for you all, by the way? It's basically this for the rest of the video, I'm afraid, and I'm very sorry. You know, everything seems trivial after the election. I need to do a lazy one to get back into it. I'll get back to responding to something worthwhile soonish. Leave me alone. Let's move on.
So, like most people who grew up immersed in the neoliberal ideology of the West...
What? Neoliberal ideology of the West. Let's just break that one down for a moment, shall we? Neo, meaning new. Liberal, the idea that the world should be governed on a principle of liberty and equality for all people. And this is supposed to somehow be a bad thing to think. Oh wait, what am I saying? Of course it's bad, because it's the patriarchy, right? But wait, hang on, what is modern feminism? Well, it's new, so we could certainly describe it as being a neo-ideology, and it keeps saying that it wants to push for equality for all people, so yeah, that word actually kind of encompasses modern feminism as well. I know you're trying to Twitter and Tumblr accounts to try and make themselves look intellectual while they're talking about some mythical patriarch, and considered what these words actually mean.
So, Milo Stewart. And in the course of making that video, I had to read thousands of Leafy's comments. And one thing I saw over and over again was people who were confused by Milo's language. I assumed were jokes. I was like, what big words? You know, not that Milo isn't well spoken or anything, but nothing he said was all that complicated. Or so I thought, anyway. I now realise that it's all relative, of course. A lot of concepts are just new to a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with that. It's entirely possible to have just not encountered the word neoliberalism before. There's no shame at all in being ignorant of that concept. What there is shame in is assuming that because you haven't heard of it before, it must therefore be a bullshit buzzword someone else is just making up to look smart, and then breaking it apart into its component pieces in an attempt to decipher its meaning, rather than just admitting ignorance and looking it up. Now, of course, YouTube commenters were quick to point out TLD's mistake, which led to him claiming, follow-up question, what was the joke? And I guess after getting a bunch of comments explaining his mistake, TLD got sick of it and added the following disclaimer to the video description. To all the people telling me I don't know what neoliberalism is, you missed the joke, so here it is, spelled out for you. She's ignoring the actual definition of neoliberalism and contorting it into some nebulous term regarding oppression and privilege, and basically ignoring the economic aspect of it, so I simply redefine it as well, so it can quite easily include herself. Which, well, that's not actually true, is it, TLD? Because you explicitly accused Anita of inventing the term. Sorry, the bullshit buzzword.
I know you're trying to invent a load of bullshit nonsense buzzwords that people can then go home and throw out on their Twitter and Tumblr accounts to try and make themselves look intellectual while they're talking about some mythical patriarchy.
You see, what actually happened here was Anita Sarkeesian knew something that you didn't know. In this one instance, Anita Sarkeesian was smarter than you. But of course, TLDR can't possibly admit that because that would unravel his whole video, the foundation of which is that Anita Sarkeesian has to be an idiot. So he has to do the just a joke defense, you know, I was just kidding, it was just satire, I was doing the Socratic method. I don't know what I was doing, but whatever it wasn't not knowing something. Also, 2 more points. Firstly, Anita is not ignoring the economic aspect of neoliberalism because she goes on in her speech to draw explicit comparisons between the neoliberal economic ideas of individualism and privatization and the individualist ideas of choice feminism. Secondly, TLDR mentions the actual definition of neoliberalism, so pray silence everyone for Professor Dictionary, the inventor of all the words, come to tell us what they actually mean. You see, if you do what TLDR should have done and Google neoliberalism, you can read all about it for free, and one of the first things that Wikipedia tells us about the term is this. The definition and usage of the term has changed over time, and it goes on to lay out all the differing and changing meanings of the word neoliberalism. Speaking of definitions of words,
it's about the way the Chinese Communist Party is seeking to exert influence here in the United Kingdom. And that's exactly why we need to have the Foreign Interest Registration Scheme, the third scheme, introduced, and why we need to see China on the enhanced tier. Because as you say in intelligence work, if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, first you need a haystack.
We are calling the alleged spy H6 currently. Should we know the name of this person?
Look, I think that there are many different individuals who are going to make decisions on whether or not to name him. I have to say, I think the most important thing about this is that we understand the level of threat, and to not respond to this, frankly, very clear warning would be frankly negligent and even dangerous. We need to be absolutely clear. We need to see China on the enhanced tier of the first scheme, and we need to see that happen now.
How much blame should be placed on the man himself, on Prince Andrew, for this?
One can focus on Prince Andrew, and I think it's probably been unwise, but this isn't really about him. This is about the fact that the Chinese Communist Party is seeking to influence activities in the United Kingdom in ways that are frankly unacceptable by any country, and particularly by a country that has interests so different from ours. And that's why it's so important that we don't just treat this as a one-off, but we see it for what it is, a very clear warning, a very, very clear warning that to do anything other than to bring about the enhanced tier for China on the first scheme would frankly not only be negligent, it would be dangerous.
We're seeing images now of Prince Andrew going about public life. Just a moment ago we saw him on Christmas Day going to church. There are reports this morning that he is being urged to withdraw from Europe over Christmas, over the coming weeks. Do you think that might be wise?
Well, that's a matter for the royal family. I'm not going to advise His Majesty the King on what to do.
Back then, I thought sexism basically boiled down to a few bad apples with misguided personal beliefs born out of ignorance or overt hatred.
Right, stop there. That is exactly what sexism is. Just like racism, just like homophobia. They are not the wider pervasive views of society. They are the views of a select few vast minority of society.
So that's what sexism, racism and homophobia mean for anyone who was wondering. They're not societal or cultural problems.
I'm back.
Is there a balance to be struck here?
Absolutely.
They're merely individual problems, and that's all. And that's quite nice, isn't it, to finally have that issue resolved. However, TLDR later quotes the dictionary definition of the word compassion at Anita in an attempt to catch her out on something, and he uses Google's dictionary feature for this. So let's see what Google's dictionary feature thinks of the word sexism. And here's their example of the word sexism in a sentence. Sexism in language is an offensive reminder of the way the culture sees women. And while we're at it, let's just see what dictionary.com thinks of the word sexism. Ingrained and institutionalized prejudice against or hatred of women. So the dictionaries, at least, seem to think sexism is more than just an individual problem. Hey, the dictionary. Quote it when it agrees with you, and quietly ignore it when it doesn't.
With the help of some amazing mentors and by reading a lot of feminist writing, especially the words of women of color and queer women from around the world.
Because the opinions of white women and straight women are apparently lower on the hierarchy of importance than all of those people. Also, you know what? I'm starting to lighten up to this idea of calling folks people of color and queers. Because now, when I want to go on a good old-fashioned nigger lynch or fag drag, I can use the correct terminology. Thanks, feminism, you fucking bigots.
So I don't really know what was going on with that last bit. I think it was just a joke that didn't quite hit the mark there, to put it lightly. But let's address the part before that, where Anita says she especially read the words of women of colour and queer women from around the world. And TLDR takes this to mean that Anita is discounting the words of straight white feminists. However, this is another example of TLDR cutting Anita off in the middle of a sentence. You see, the rest of Anita's sentence reads like this, and it's the intersecting social systems bit that I really want you to pay attention to here. It's not that Anita's saying the words of straight white feminists don't matter, it's that they're not enough by themselves. She's saying you need a bunch of different viewpoints from different people. So the words of women of colour and queer women would be especially important for someone trying to understand interacting social systems, because they will have particular insights about things like race and sexuality that you wouldn't necessarily get if you exclusively read the works of straight white people.
Unfortunately, many contemporary discourses in and around feminism tend to emphasize a form of hyper-individualism, which is informed by that neoliberal worldview.
You are really offended by this idea that people can and do think for themselves, aren't you? Or is this just some sort of subtle manipulative way of you trying to say, yeah, it's okay for you to think for yourself as long as what you think agrees with me? Because if you agree with me, that's the only way that you're not going to be a hyper-individual, neoliberal shitlord.
And this part represents the main misunderstanding of TLDrs here. TLDrs here. Anita is going to go on to denounce so-called choice feminism and argue that feminists have a responsibility beyond the individual. Now, key to this idea is that individual actions do matter quite a lot. That's the whole point, in fact, that individual actions have ramifications beyond the individual. Anita's argument here relies upon the existence and importance of individuals. TLDR completely misses this and thinks Anita is arguing that individuals don't or shouldn't exist and that feminism should be some sort of Borg collective. And he does this a lot. So to save coming back to this point over and over again, let's go non-linear and quickly bang through some of the other times he gets hung up on this.
For the moment, but we'll see you again in around half an hour. I hope you can join us. Bye-bye. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with John Kay and Sally Nugent.
7 o'clock Monday morning. Good morning. Here are headlines. And the government approves the sale of the 500-year-old Royal Mail to a Czech billionaire.
So what does this mean for the millions of people who rely on the service all around the UK? Come to the Royal Mail Super Hub in Northamptonshire at their busiest time of year to find out more.
Days before he takes temporary charge of the Church of England, the Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell, faces calls to resign over his handling of a sexual abuse case.
How to protect children from illegal content online. Ofcom sets out its first codes of practice for tech firms.
In sport this morning, City's slump continues as 2 goals in 2 minutes sees Manchester United take the honours on Derby Day.
And the cyclist, Sir Mark Cavendish, will be honoured with the BBC Sports Personality of the Year Lifetime Achievement Award. Good morning. Today's going to be breezy and mild. We'll also have some sunny spells, variable amounts of cloud, and unless you're in the north of Scotland, we will have heavy and persistent rain and gusty winds. I'll have all the details shortly. Good morning. It's Monday, the 16th of December. The government has approved the sale of the Royal Mail's parent company to the Czech billionaire Daniel Kretinsky. It is understood that the deal worth £3.6 billion will be formally announced later on this morning.
The firm was established in the 16th century Ministers will continue to have a say in how it's run, as our business editor Simon Jack explains.
The first owner of Royal Mail was Henry VIII. It was privatised in 2013, and its next owner will be this man, Daniel Kretinsky, whose companies own 27% of West Ham United and 10% of Sainsbury's. Speaking to the BBC earlier this year, he vowed he would honour the one price goes anywhere universal service.
I can see very clearly one strong personal commitment. First of all, as long as I'm alive, I completely exclude this. Royal Mail is going to be the provider of universal service obligation in the UK unconditionally, and I would say forever.
But that service is already under review by regulator Ofcom, which is considering reducing second-class letters to every other weekday, which is estimated will save Royal Mail £300 million a year. His £3.6 billion bid is also under review over the summer, as Royal Mail is considered
Wake up!
Hey!
Mr. Kretinsky,
if you're fucking falling asleep, turn the computer off.
Reduce volumes of Russian gas to Europe, paid for and approved by EU member states. There are some conditions Mr. Kretinsky has agreed to. The government will reserve the right to block any major moves, such as moving Royal Mail's HQ.
This individual point.
Because the individual choices of individual women do not matter. The only thing that matters is the public image and branding of feminism, which is more important than the freedom of choice, autonomy, and liberty of any woman. Bend your knee and submit, puny mortal women. Submit to your goddess queen feminism. There you go, straight from the horse's mouth. You as a woman cannot be entrusted to empower yourself. Saint Sarkeesian will decide what will empower you for you, because you are too weak, pathetic, and stupid to be trusted. And any action that you take that is not directly approved by Saint Sarkeesian could risk damaging the holy image of feminism. You actually have no concept of the individual, do you? All you can see is the collective, and anything that is not of the collective is against the collective. You don't even seem to want women within that collective to identify as being individual women. You just want them to be one large congealed...
Okay, you get the point. He says it a lot. And I think the only other point to be made here is TLD's completely ridiculous stretching of Anita's words to their most absurd possible extent. Anita's language is actually very measured and restrained. Too restrained, in my opinion. You know, she'll say something like, some choices might possibly have negative ramifications, and TLD responds hysterically, casting her as some sort of self-declared feminist dictator. And I wonder if it's just feminism that sets him off, or if TLD takes this approach to every sentence he hears. You know, for instance, if I say, I'm quite tall.
Ah, right. So Sean thinks he's the tallest man who has ever lived on the entire planet in human history.
It was quite nice of TLD to stop by there for that little cameo, wasn't it? He's got a good sense of humour about himself, at least. Anyway, let's go back in time to where we left off.
Okay, so this is the part where I say things that may ruffle some feathers.
So after demonizing the white man, dehumanizing women, people who aren't white and people who aren't straight, down to the point that they have no autonomy of their own, this is the point where things are going to get offensive. This is the line in the sand past which the offensive stuff begins, apparently.
Now then, what on earth is he talking about here? Just to pick one point out of that mess, dehumanizing people who aren't straight, down to the point where they have no autonomy of their own. Where in her speech did Anita do that? I think what he's talking about here is earlier when Anita said she was involved with clubs arguing for gay and lesbian rights, and to which TLD responded.
So you really shouldn't presume to speak for all lesbian women everywhere, you heterosexual oppressive shitlord. After all, nothing quite says I'm fighting for equality like speaking over all of those marginalized voices.
You know, is that it? The only other time Anita might have mentioned gay people is when she said that she read the works of queer women. So it's got to be the first one, right? Anita says, I support gay and lesbian rights. And TLD responds, so you're dehumanizing gay people to the point where they have no autonomy. That's ridiculous. I thought it was meant to be the social justice crowd who were overly dramatic and easily outraged. Anita is not dehumanizing gay people. She isn't demonizing the white man. In fact, if you read Anita's whole speech, she hasn't even directly mentioned men at all up to now. You know, no offense, Teal dear, but, you know, chill out.
But I think it's a critical discussion to have. So
No, it really isn't. But you know what is a critical discussion to have? The blatant hive mind that is on display in front of us right now. Notice how every single woman is sitting in exactly the same way, bar the one notable exception who is anatomically unable to do so, because her legs are in fact beginning to fuse together in her chrysalis stage, at which point she will emerge as a full-fledged hut. Just an observation. Anyway, let's keep going.
So, completely unnecessary, unfair, and tangential attack on an unrelated person aside, I absolutely love the concept of a hive mind, but with exceptions. You know, if we look at the source video and the next wide shot of the whole panel, we see that the two people to Anita's left are sitting differently. Jermaine Greer has both of her feet on the ground, and the person on the end has her legs crossed in the other direction. How did it come to this? So, look at all these women sitting.
It was never open to him to revisit or take disciplinary action against David Tudor, as there were no live or new complaints that had not already been dealt with. But members of clergy are among those joining with Tudor's victims to call for Archbishop Cottrell to resign.
I think it completely undermines his credibility that this case was not acted on when he knew information at the time. How can you have the moral and ethical authority to lead an institution with that? You can't. So yes, I do think he needs to consider his position.
Only 2 months ago, David Tudor admitted sexual misconduct and was sacked by the church. But he leaves difficult questions for those who for years allowed him to continue as a priest. Alim Maboul, BBC News.
And you can listen to the full story on 5 on 4 Investigates. That's available on BBC Sounds right now and on Radio 4 tomorrow. Technology firms are now legally required to start taking action to tackle criminal activity and harmful material on their platforms. The communications regulator Ofcom has set out its first codes of practice, which make sites and apps assess how likely it is that children will stumble across illegal content on their platforms. It's the later stages of the implementation of the Online Safety Act, but critics maintain that the proposals don't do enough to keep young people safe. We'll talk to Ofcom about that shortly. Hospice leaders in England say the sector urgently needs a financial support package, and they would be incredibly disappointed if it isn't announced in the next week. Speaking on Breakfast last month, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, said that such a plan would come before Christmas, but there's been no confirmation yet on any timing. Our reporter Marta Newman has more.
Hospices, they're under growing financial pressure. Some, like St Cuthbert's in Durham, have had to announce job cuts. Up to 28 out of more than 120 staff could go, with some services cut.
There's the personal impact on both patients and staff. It's a massive shock to have to go through this process, but more widely as well in the community.
Fuck's sake!
People going into hospital.
Wake up!
I am awake. For fuck's sake.
Turn the fucking thing off if you're sleeping. I don't know how to turn it off. I'll just pound the fucker down. If it fucking kills it, it kills it.
Sing in the exact same way, except for the ones who aren't. 4 out of 7. What a hive mind that is.
The fact of the matter is that some choices have ramifications beyond ourselves and reinforce harmful patriarchal ideas about women as a group and about women's bodies and our wider shared culture. And because of how systems of oppression intersect and compound one another, it's women of color, indigenous women, women living in the global south, women with disabilities, queer women, and trans women who bear the brunt of these ramifications.
So how do you live with yourself? Because you're a white woman, which means you're obviously oppressing every non-white woman. You're of Armenian descent, which means that you are not indigenous to America, and are therefore oppressing all of the people who lived in America before European colonization. You live in the global north, which means you're automatically oppressing everyone in the global south. You're able-bodied, so you're instantly oppressing everyone who is disabled. And as far as I'm aware, you're straight and not transsexual, so you're oppressing every non-straight transsexual in the world. Honestly, with the massive amount of oppression that you're exerting on this world, I'm quite surprised you haven't killed yourself. You know, just from the guilt of it all.
Well, Teal dear, allow me to shed some light on this. You see,